Welcome back, or maybe we should be welcoming ourselves back after such a long hiatus to the 7 Minutes podcast. It has definitely been longer than 7 minutes since we have been live. Or we have recorded, rather.
Substantially closer to 7 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But your fearless, intrepid hosts have all returned. I'm Angela.
I'm Zach.
I'm Dominic.
I'm Robert.
And we've all returned. And we have a lot to catch up on. We would have had a lot to catch up on in a normal 7 month period, 6-7 month period, but this has been an especially busy, prolific year for the industry.
So, of course, that's the year we choose not to record anything.
Yeah, so there's a lot to catch up on. And that's basically what this episode is us catching up on games that we played and we need to discuss, and then giving you a little update on our kind of fantasy football-ish competition that we have going on. And that being said, Zach, it looks like you have it open.
Yeah.
So give us an update.
The last time we recorded, Robert was in the lead. Redfall had just come out and tanked my score. And Tears of the Kingdom was just around the corner. As you may be aware, Tears of the Kingdom scored very well. And there have been a lot of games that have come out since. Some changes in our rankings. At this point, it is possible that these scores are more or less final. All the games that are announced to come out in 2023 have already come out. Which is to say all the games that at least have release dates. Some things have been given like, yeah, it's coming out in Q4, or yeah, it's coming out in sometime in 2023, but not have anything firmer. For example, 9 Souls on my list might still come out. Metal Slug Tactics and Mina the Hollower on Robert's list might still come out. Hollow Knight, Silksong might still come out. These are still all nominally 2023, but I think at this point, any of those, I would bet against them coming out in 2023. And where that leaves us is with Angie's score probably more or less final at an average of 81.8, which puts her, at least for the moment, ahead of Robert, who has an 81.3. And on my end, I have a 77.1. Dom, though, is currently in the lead with 82.3. If Silksong does come out, that'll solidify his lead further. Otherwise, unless Robert has one or both of his games come out or 9 Souls comes out for me, I think it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which is pretty impressive because Dom had been trailing for a while. He was getting increasingly disappointed in his choices, and then all of a sudden he just bounced back. So
yeah,
we still have another month, but some early congrats are in order for Dom.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because I can't even remember hold on one second. Yeah, all year I was like, I expected more from my list. I thought I was going to do way better.
The thing is, Dom, just, you had not an exceptional slate, but also like Tales of Symphonia is the only really bad one you had.
Yep.
It's the only one sub 70. And you had the trick of picking games that came out by and large. So you and Angie both have at least 10 games that actually came out on your list.
Yeah.
Which does help. And your games just had a slightly higher average, even though Angie didn't have any as low as Tales of Symphonia.
Yeah, for you, Zach, your list is nothing but bangers, 90s.
Plus Redfall.
Yeah, but having 1-0
Yep.
and Redfall,
yeah,
it's wild that made that big of a difference,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking. And then for Angie and Rob, they're so close by 0.5%. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Which is impressive when you consider that Robert has 3 zeros. Right? Because Suicide Squad was confirmed not to come out, and he's got the other 2 that don't have release dates yet.
Oh, right. But he did have a backup, right? In Minecraft Legends, it looks like. So he'll have 2 that count, correct?
Minecraft Legends did terribly.
71.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than a 0.
Right, yeah. But he can ononly drop 2 scores.
Oh, I see. Because it says your average score that scored was 85 point something.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's the way that average math was set up is it's not counting the zeros.
I see.
Yeah. A little untrustworthy.
Yeah, I mean, if you had picked maybe 1 or 2 that were for sure coming out, it wouldn't even mattered
if
they scored low or not.
I feel like some of this I could not have foreseen
Yeah.
But if I'd paid more attention to the fact that the Kerbal Space Program release was just early access,
Yeah. And you admitted that you kind of picked Redfall.
I don't even like arcane games, but as like journalists love arcane games, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. But yeah, I mean, this has been fun. We've talked about it. We're definitely going to do it next year.
I think next year I'm just gonna pick. Actually, no, because Modern Warfare 3 sucked, huh? Mm-hmm. I was gonna say because I don't think Modern Warfare 3 had been announced when we started, but there's always a Call of Duty game, so I should just put it and fill in the blank. Call of Duty. But this year it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really bad. I only saw the IGN score. It was
2K got bad scores this year too, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Forza did all right. Wasn't enough to save me, but
What
I'm
if
telling
Forza?
you.
it's like mid 80s, I think.
I still have to play it. I downloaded it because I have Game Pass, and I have not turned my Xbox on since.
I haven't played Forza, the new one, yet either. I played Gran Turismo a little bit, the new one on PS5. But yeah, all in all, really fun. I'm shocked I came back. Like, if it were to end right now, I win. But yeah, I was just, some of my choices just didn't pan out like I thought they would.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
Yeah.
Picking the high floor games was my sort of idea. I know these are going to get 75s or above or 80 minimum.
It was a
Having
solid,
that mindset.
Yeah.
And release dates really played a part in that.
big one.
I was picking games that were Q1, Q2 release dates.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 2 was really my only question mark that didn't have a release date, for a big portion of the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did that end up reviewing at on average?
I think 90 for
Okay.
Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first pick, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's been a crazy year for games. Like I checked Metacritic. Spider-Man 2, like if you go to Metacritic and search for like best games of the year, and it'll just give you them ranked by their Metascore. Spider-Man 2 is like all the way down at like 20 or something. Like it's the last one on the first page of the results.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And he scored, you said it's a 90 on Metacritic?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a good segue into, I guess, maybe talking about some of the earlier games that we've missed, kind of going chronologically. I think, Zach, you mentioned that Zelda was just about to come out.
Yeah. Last time we put out an episode was very early May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if we just kind of want to go over our thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom, we all beat it, right?
Yeah, we all beat it.
We all beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first because I probably have the least to say. Because, I mean, I beat the story.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't do much. Are we talking the whole game, like with spoilers and
Yeah,
stuff?
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, so spoiler warning.
For anyone still playing or
All right.
hasn't played it yet.
So I admitted when, the last podcast, before it actually released, that I didn't beat Breath of the Wild completely. And so I went into this game without beating Breath of the Wild. But anyways, I thought Tears was really good. It sort of met my expectation of feeling a little bit DLC-ish, kind of copy and paste. Obviously, same world, many of the same mechanics as Breath of the Wild. The stuff they added, being able to customize weapons more, add durability and things like that, was fine. I mean, nothing was like groundbreaking to me. A lot of the crafting stuff, I'm not a huge fan of crafting stuff in general. So it was fine. It was just more of, okay, it was fun the first few times. Now it's getting kind of, annoying. But other than that, I think the story was great. The last boss battle was the highlight for me. It sort of brought everything together. The ending, while the boss fights and everything was great, the ending was okay, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just kind of ended abruptly. And, Zelda just coming back.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be this huge, sacrifice, by her taking, what was it, the stone? Someone remind me.
Yeah. Consuming the stone.
Yeah.
And then it was like considered this very taboo thing to do.
Yeah, like, that's it. She sacrificed herself.
It was just, I mean, to your point, like it was like you're sacrificing your humanity. There's no coming back from this. You're going to be a dragon forever. Almost like it was almost presented as torturous in a way, because I think they still have some of their consciousness as a human, but they're also a little feral.
Yeah.
But like trapped in this body.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I knew
the
that.
dragon's tears was like actual Zelda and actual memories coming out.
Yeah.
I knew that wasn't gonna last. Like when it was like she's stuck this way forever, I'm like, until the end of the game when it ends.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that brings her back, but it didn't. It didn't explain anything. She just came back. And that brings me to my last point I'll make, because I mean, it's a Zelda game. I liked it a lot. The highlight was definitely the tears cutscenes and doing all that stuff. That brought the story in. That was the main story element, right? Those cutscenes with the tears. Those cutscenes were awesome, and that was the highlight for me. But yeah, I'll chime in on your guys' take. Yeah. I thought it was a great game. Loved it.
Well, I really liked the cutscenes. I thought the narrative stuff was very well done, and Ganon was just allowed to just be a bad guy. Like, there was no, he's sympathetic or nothing like that. It was just, he's evil. And like, when he shows his true colors and he's being just a wicked demon, really satisfying. I think that of the additions, the irony to me was that the sky is what was touted in all the marketing, and the sky was the least interesting part. It was the exact opposite. I like going underground. That was really fun, just exploring and finding all that new stuff underground. I was disappointed they still didn't properly incorporate water. I don't like that you can't properly swim. It's lame. And then there was something else that really stood out to me about this game. Zach's distracted me now. I can't think of what I was going to say.
You can't crack jokes like that and expect me not to respond.
What was I going to say? Come back to me now. I can't remember.
Well, I will just say that overall, I definitely enjoyed it more than Breath of the Wild, significantly. I was genuinely having fun with it. It surpassed my expectations, because I remember me and Dom saying in I think it was the last episode, that we were both just kind of like, yeah, we'll play it, but our expectations are maybe a little low, and in part because of how we walked away feeling from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. Agreed that the memories were a pretty they were a highlight of the game. If you miss those, or you don't want to do those for some reason, like you're significantly missing out. Although in this game, I actually don't know if you can choose to not do them. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, it was all totally optional. Yeah, you'd be missing out if you weren't doing those. I do think I gotta agree with Dom that the emotional resonance of, like Zelda makes this huge sacrifice of her humanity is definitely undermined by how easily, not easily, but how the fact that she was able to come back at all. That was a little odd. There were also there's some question of like how things are supposed to make sense in the wider world of Zelda and the greater timeline. Like, I think Robert had mentioned to me, if the Master Sword is with Zelda, like sticking out of her head or whatever, for hundreds of years, how did the other heroes have it? Because it's the same Master Sword. It's not a different Master Sword.
Well, it's looped around on itself. The Master Sword that's in Zelda's head as a dragon is the Master Sword that's sent back through the same like portal or whatever with Zelda. So there would have been, like, if this is all part of the same timeline, and the thing of Zelda becoming a dragon happened before most of the other adventures took place, then there would just be two Master Swords. There's the one Master Sword that belongs in that time, and the one that was sent back in time floating around on a dragon in the sky.
Yeah, see, this is my problem.
I remember having this complaint. I thought this game, I consider these games to be the very end of the timeline, so it wouldn't interfere with anything in the past because it's after everything.
But Zelda goes back in time to, like, the proto-Hylians.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They're before everything.
Yeah.
If they are before everything, right? Because, like...
Well, up to this point, they'd have to be, because there's nothing new that's come out. So canonically, they're saying this is the beginning. Because remember Skyward... That was the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, they're starting the kingdom, and this is the beginning, but now we have this, and so it's like...
Look, I have only so much appetite to talk about Zelda timeline stuff. Just throw it all in the bin, right? But this game depicts the founding of a kingdom called Hyrule, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same Hyrule, right?
That's the wiggle room they give.
That's the wiggle room, but that's the wiggle room they set up in Wind Waker, right? Like, that they...
This is your kingdom.
Yeah. So, I mean... Really, I think Nintendo just doesn't care whether it makes sense if you look at it too carefully. I don't think they're that invested in the timeline stuff, which is why it's weird that they put out a book establishing all this timeline canon.
Well, they have it for themselves, and I think they did it just as throwing a bone to fans. Like, all right, we know you wonder. This is what we have. To the point of the timeline. I didn't like that the houses and stuff were moved in some locations, like in the Sheikah village. Because I'm like, so this is a direct pickup from the previous game, and now some of the geography's not the same. And like the upheaval, what's it called? The
Calamity?
Yeah,
the calamity?
I don't know what they call it.
It has a word.
The happening, right? It's
Yeah,
always something
yeah,
like that
it's
with
something
video
like
games
that.
these days.
And so that, I thought, like, that was kind of used as an excuse for, like, maybe this is why, the houses aren't where they're supposed to be, like in that village. But I'm like, everything should just be the same. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you wouldn't lift the whole house up.
So this was a big problem I had too, was how many people were acting like they didn't know who Link was. Like, in particular in Hateno Village, that's where he lived, that's where he built his house. And then Zelda moved in, which is something I will also comment on. But everyone's just like, who are you? Or like, oh, you're just like some wanderer. I'm just like, he saved the world. How do you not know who he is? It didn't make any sense. Not even the mayor knows. I'm like, he lives here, or he lived here. Like, he built his house here. How do you not know who he is?
I feel like all the stuff that Nintendo does, like the timeline and the way they treat the story between Breath of the Wild and this game, and it's like, it's like if you have like a guy who's got a crush on you and you're not interested, but you go on a date with him out of pity, that kind of seems like the level of engagement Nintendo has with like the lore and fan expectations. Well, they're like, okay, you want to, fine.
Especially because they mentioned that Link traveled around with Zelda while she was like traveling around the kingdom post Breath of the Wild to like help reestablish life. And then she's living in Hateno, and I think was like teaching the kids at one point, like in the school or whatever. It just made no sense how all these people didn't know who Link was. And like, I think it's Nintendo trying to do that thing where it's like, oh, you can pick up and play. You don't have to know the previous game's lore. You can just jump in. And then like trying to make that make sense and trying to make the player feel like this isn't necessarily a continuation. Like, I can just pick up and play and not have to like know the previous game's story.
Yeah.
But it's handled so poorly.
What's so bipolar about it too, because like one minute there will be characters who kind of acknowledge the history with Link, and then there's others who don't. So you could take that to mean, well, it's such a huge world that not everyone would know Link. It's like, yes, but then you got to think about the location. So like the village he freaking lives in, they would know who he is. It's like, but other places, yeah, maybe you could get away with it, but it still doesn't really make any sense. So it's like, why even invite this scrutiny, at all? Like, either resolve it or change the location or something, but...
Also just weird details, like, so Zelda wants to be of the people, so she doesn't build her own freaking house. She tells Link, I'm taking over yours. Or Link is so incredibly selfless that he's just like, oh, you can have my house. That was so stupid. And like, yeah, I mean, Nintendo's like repeated insistence that there's nothing between them other than a friendship. Like, well, if you had established that they were together, then it would make sense that they were living together. But they don't want that. Like, they give you that very strong kind of suggestion at the end, the very end, when Link grabs her as they're falling through the sky, that there's something more there, but they never actually confirm that. So the implication is that she's living in his old house alone, and he's just homeless. And you can build your new house in Lorelin Village or whatever, like the seaside village. But even that doesn't make sense because it's pretty far from Hateno. You're supposed to be Zelda's bodyguard. Why would Link's house be in a little fishing village way far away?
Well, because it would be unseemly for a lowly knight to cohabitate with a princess.
The whole thing was just a lot of things that didn't make sense to me in that regard.
I have things I like and don't like about the story, but we can wait till we get around the table to me.
Yeah. Well, and the ending, I agree with Dom. I think it did feel a bit abrupt. I also just I don't particularly like Zelda in these last two games. There are things about her I like and things about her I don't. And I just feel like she spent the last two games just doing a lot of crying and whining and, oh, the world is so hard, life is so hard, and I'm...
In fairness, I'll take that over Girl Boss Zelda.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather have that.
I would agree with that. At least she's not like, Peach, who's borderline annoying in the Mario movie, even though the Mario movie is fantastic, but she has some interesting moments, but I ultimately just didn't really love Zelda in this game. But I agree with Robert that Ganondorf just being the ultimate piece of shit through the whole game was very satisfying. Like, I was pretty shocked by just how brutal he is and how just mean and nasty. And yeah, like Robert said, they're not doing the thing that Western writers do all the time now in movies or comics or whatever, or games, where it's like, well, what's his backstory? How was he hurt? How was he discriminated against?
There's no such thing as just a bad person.
Yeah, how was he oppressed? Whatever. It's like, no, he's just a bad guy. And he has his own evil aspirations, and he doesn't care who he hurts to get what he wants. And that's just very satisfying to watch. And I thought that Ganondorf was really well done.
Part of me wished that he wasn't the enemy in this game, but I feel obviously they did it just because Ganon's always the enemy, kind of like Bowser. But I think also it helped to make up for his lack of presence in the previous game. Because you get the glimpses of Ganon, and he's always some kind of monster creature, and then even at the very end, he's still just this monster. And so this game really allowed you to see Ganon. And so that was cool. I do kind of hope with the next one that we get another alternate enemy. Because they tend to do that, right? Like, you get different bad guys here and there, and it's always kind of fun. Majora is obviously the best that has been produced over the years. My last thought on this is I didn't really care about the building. Like, it was fine. You know, it was an interesting mechanic, but like these people, it is kind of funny to see the stuff that people build, and like you see videos online of like these giant rolling towers that probably took hours to make, and all that is cool, but it is not my thing. And I was just like, if this wasn't in the game, I wouldn't even really have noticed. The problem solving, though, for puzzles was kind of fun when it was implemented. And then, now last thought. Also, the dungeons were fine. They weren't great, but they were considerably better than what we got in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But I still feel like we haven't returned to proper dungeons. And like, I hope the next game is a synthesis of this and really great dungeons again, and then, So that's my final thought.
Well, I thought that the last battle with Ganondorf was pretty darn cool. The dragon, and then having the two dragons go at it, I thought that was unexpected and pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I really liked that. But and then I guess my final thought too is the depths. Those were really, really interesting. It was creepy. Even though, it is, maybe some people think it was a little bit tedious having to use the light, whatever, blossoms or whatever. I actually didn't at all. I wasn't bothered by it, especially because I kept picking them up in the overworld without thinking about it. And so by the time I was ready to start exploring the depths, I had like hundreds and hundreds. So it wasn't really holding me back. But it was very cool. And it obviously opened up a lot of questions lore-wise. The Poe statues in and of themselves are creepy, and you have lots of questions about those. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
It was true exploration. Like, people talk about Breath of the Wild being like a return to, you just get to go anywhere and there's no direction. The depths was that times 1,000. Because, like, you couldn't even see half the time where you were going. So, you really felt like you were combing this uncharted world. And then all the skins that you get for Link, including the Dark Link, which you get down there.
Yeah, his costumes were cool. But also it reminded me of, like, how at the bottom of the ocean in the real world, things get creepier. Like, the creatures get more bizarre the deeper you go down into the ocean. And there's a lot of mystery in terms of the ocean's depths because we can only explore so far down. When you fall down into the depths, like, you really are like understanding how far down you're going. And then the creatures that are down there are bizarre and they're weird and they're creepy. So it actually kind of gave me this sense of like exploring the bottom of the ocean, which is also interesting because like there's a question of like Breath of the Wild and is it the same area as like the Great Sea, because you get like rock salt because there used to be an ocean where the field is. So it's kind of tied back into Wind Waker almost in a way. But I thought the horror elements at the beginning where you find Ganondorf's corpse, I thought was really good. The gloom hands were terrifying. The first time I ever encountered them, I was genuinely scared. I was like, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to fight it right now. But I keep saying that Nintendo does horror pretty well, and they had some good horror elements in this game. But Zach, why don't you close us out on Zelda?
Yeah. I remember when we were talking about how we felt about Breath of the Wild and what we were hoping for Tears of the Kingdom, Dom had mentioned his fears about it being basically DLC for Breath of the Wild, and I remember saying, like, basically, that's fine with me. That sounds good. I love Breath of the Wild. It was, at the time, my favorite Zelda game. And after playing Tears of the Kingdom, I kind of wish it was more like Breath of the Wild DLC, I think. Because, like, comparing the differences between the two games, I think, on the whole, I do prefer Breath of the Wild. The big problem for me, there are definitely a lot of things I like about Tears of the Kingdom. I can start there first. I do honestly love the depths. I think for as much as Tears of the Kingdom suffers from basically reusing Hyrule, the depths really are worth the price of admission for me. The experience of exploring the depths, and also the relationship between the depths and the world above. You know, comparing the light route locations to the shrine locations and the inverse topography. If it's a mountain above, it's a valley below, and all that stuff. Understanding, like realizing how they relate to each other, understanding how they relate to each other, and being able to use the one to help you explore the other back and forth. All that was very cool. I loved the depths. I loved that it does feel a little more dangerous down there because you have like that gloom effect, so you can't really heal up the same way. All that was really cool. But I do not like the building mechanics at all. I do not like it at all. I kind of like conceptually the idea of doing it, but it is just so fiddly and slow to put together. And then if you misplace something even slightly, the whole thing falls apart and you have to start over. And I can understand how that might be funny or entertaining. It might work in the context of like a YouTube stream or a Twitch stream, or if you're stoned, like whatever. Like I there's an audience for that, but it's not what I wanted out of the game. And I felt that it actually, for a lot of the shrines that relied on the Ultra Hand stuff, I was enjoying the process of like iterating and solving them less than I did in Breath of the Wild. Even though Magnesis was a little clunky in Breath of the Wild, it was nowhere near as clunky as using Ultra Hand to do stuff in Tears of the Kingdom. And so that's a bummer because like so much of this, like this game also has like a ton of shrines, just like Breath of the Wild does. But I had, on average, I think more fun with the shrines in Breath of the Wild. Although I do want to give a shout out to like the combat shrines in Tears of the Kingdom. I think those are my favorites. The ones where you like would go in and just had to exterminate a bunch of sentry bots, and there would be like some gimmick, like they were all like archers on rafts that are rotating around a central island, or you have nothing to your name except for a couple of battle bots that you can attach spikes to. Like those were awesome encounters. So there's definitely still stuff I liked in terms of like what they did with the shrines, but I really do. I think the runes from Breath of the Wild as a set are better. The bombs and stasis in particular, I really feel the absence of those in the combat of Tears of the Kingdom, because the like, what is it called? Recall, the like one that reverses time, is actually not that interesting in a combat application. Basically, you can just like, somebody throws a rock at you, you throw the rock back at them, right? Not that interesting. Fuse is fine. You build new weapons out of it, but that's not really something you're doing in combat. Ultra Hand is too clunky to really do in combat, and Ascend doesn't really have much of a practical combat application either.
Right.
And so this leaves kind of a hole compared to in Breath of the Wild, where in addition to like the items and weapons you also had like bombs you could throw, and you had stasis that you could work into, and you could also use like cryonas to like block enemies from being able to hit you if the terrain was right. So like there's like a whole layer of the formula of Breath of the Wild combat that feels like it's not quite there. They do kind of compensate for it by having like the kind of like trick shields and things you can make by like, now you have a mushroom on your shield, right? Or now you have something else on your shield. Like that's cool, but I don't know. I still miss the bombs and stuff.
Yeah, I really only used, attaching weapons to create a gust of wind or something when I had to. I think there are a couple of parts in the game where you had to use one of those gimmicks, but other than that, I used just a straight sword and I'd attach like a monster part to all my weapons, to make the blade stronger. Right. I thought that was pretty cool, plus 25 damage, by attaching this horn to my sword or whatever.
It would have been nice though, because like conceptually that's cool, like the boost it gives you. But even though like you can buff things with like fusion, for example, it doesn't look good.
I was just about to say that.
And like sounds trivial, but like go back to Ocarina. And they talked about how like they had thought about doing first person, but then one of the designers was like, but we made Link look cool, specifically. Like he was supposed to look cool in this game. And if it was first person, we wouldn't see him. So I didn't want to do it. Like, aesthetics matter, I think, especially to people who play games. So like I'm sitting there and it's like, well, I don't want to attach a monster part because it doesn't look cool. Like if I'm going to use the Master Sword, I want the Master Sword to look cool, or whatever weapon I'm using. So in that regard, that's a little annoying.
I realize tastes differ, but like there are some stupid looking weapons, but in general, like the monster horns look pretty cool. Like you put like a Savage Lionel horn on something, that's a pretty rough looking weapon.
I didn't like any of it.
I really didn't like any of it. Although I was glad that with the Master Sword, the only difference is that you would get some runes that would appear on the blade that would glow. I actually thought that looked pretty neat, and that it didn't affect the look of the Master Sword. But yeah, everything else I just thought looked clunky or weird or just looked kind of stupid. Like if you had like a blade attached to a blade, and so it was just this really long, like a sword attached to a sword. It just looked stupid, and I thought there was a better way that they could have handled that.
I will say this in defense of one aspect of the building mechanics. With the exception of the times when you had to use them, for the most part, you could just ignore it. And, like, I pretty much did. But then that kind of calls into question, like, well, how good of a mechanic is it if you're just ignoring it or can just ignore it? And then what could have been in its place that might have been more engaging? Because Sonic Superstars has this problem where you collect the Chaos Emeralds, they're optional. And so because they're optional, the powers that you get with the emeralds are not necessary for anything. And so I went through an entire chunk of the game and finally got to a point where I was playing with some friends and they said, oh, what does it do when you press this button? I'm like, oh yeah, there's emerald powers. And I'm like, I didn't even remember. I haven't even used them the entire game because they aren't necessary. Mm-hmm. So it's like that kind of takes away from it a little
I feel
bit.
like that doesn't have to take away from it if it's still rewarding to use. Like in Mario World, you never have to ride a Yoshi, but you want to because it's fun to ride Yoshi. Like you can clear Mario World as just regular Mario. Never go to a block palace, never get Yoshi, never get a power-up. You can get through it. Same with Mario 3. You don't have to use the P-Wings or any of the other power-ups you get, but you want to because it's fun. And like that can be enough reason to have a mechanic if it's compelling and rewarding to use it. But
that's what I'm saying. I didn't find the building like that, and it's not that we're talking Superstars, but even Superstars, those powers, I was just like, none of these are fascinating to me.
It was a burden more than pleasure for me, like for most of the time.
The building was a pace killer too. Like you'd be like in the middle of something,
even
like,
with auto build.
Even with auto build.
I actually never ended up
Because you
using.
have to go into your inventory.
I never ended up using auto build,
Me neither.
and I don't know why. I just didn't care.
Zach just reminded me with that. Also, the inventory frustrated me.
It's
like
ass.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, part of me, like, I'm just thinking, okay, like maybe you're kind of making a point of like, well, you can do this, but we're not taking it super seriously. It's like, well, then why include it? Like, just give me the option to customize a wheel and say, I always want to go to this or this or this. Instead, it's like, no, you got to cycle through, and there's some filters you can apply. I'm like, this is stupid.
Yep.
Yeah,
like attaching attaching an item to your arrow.
Yeah,
right.
Just like this should be way more fluid.
Yeah.
Believe me, I was going to get
favorite
there.
option.
Yeah,
please.
Right, because especially when you're down in the depths, I was rotating pretty regularly between like bombs or bomb arrows or fire arrows or the seeds, like the light seeds, light blossoms. And so those are in some are closer to each other than others, and some are very not close at all. And so it was a lot of scrolling.
Yeah.
I thought it was odd that they didn't
takes like
allow customization.
by the time you've made a good chunk of progress in the game, it takes literally 11 or 12 seconds to get from one end of your inventory. like the fast you go to, I'm going to shoot an arrow. What kind of arrow is it going to be?
I was just going to mention back to the building real quick. Why the hell didn't they choose to have it to where if you fucked up something and you want to take a wheel off or whatever, why couldn't you just press a button?
I know.
That wiggling bullshit, like, it killed everything.
Nintendo at their finest.
Dude,
and
but,
most
like,
incorrigible.
that
just-
Very quirky.
Yeah.
Don't you want
It's
Donkey
like-
Kong to roll and have
Like,
it be
here's
extra?
the thing, though. I'm trying to go in their mind, right? So did they feel that a button, that someone might make a mistake because they hit the wrong button? So they make it almost impossible sometimes because you'd be like, am I not wiggling enough? This is like getting ridiculous. You guys know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
and sometimes you were just moving.
Yeah,
You're
you're just
sliding
moving
it.
it side to
Yeah, and
side.
I'm like, no, I'm trying to wiggle this thing off.
Yeah.
You know what'd be fun is if whoever was in charge of these like waggle control decisions at Nintendo was like in charge of their website development, and whoever was in charge of their website development was in charge of like controller UI decisions in their games.
Seriously.
Nintendo's always been weird about this stuff. That's like when the Wii U was coming out and they were doing the tech demo showing you how, hey, look, we made something as powerful as a PS3, but maybe a little more. And they were showing like some cherry blossoms, I think, floating. Mm-hmm. And they're acting like it's this revelation. I'm like, are you just completely unaware of your competitors? Like, this is like 5-year-old technology at this point. Like, wow, thanks for catching up. And like, so the same thing here. It's like, we're gonna do this quirky wiggle thing. And it's just like, like a button can work, right? Like, you don't have to. And like, I'm sure somebody was just like, this is funner. It's funner this way. And it's like, is it?
But also, this is like Nintendo catching up with 2007 era Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So I do have a little more I need to say about Zelda.
Oh, okay.
And all three of you guys like the depths. I hated the depths.
Oh, really?
I hated having to throw those damn blossoms all the time.
Okay.
I don't know.
Fair. That's fair.
I wasn't like a big fan of that much discovery in a Zelda game. I think that's where I was at. I'll play other games for discovery and all this.
I wanted that armor, the Dark Link armor, so bad. There were points where I ran out of the seeds, and I was just like, I'm just going to charge forward blindly. Because I knew where I had to go. And I did that multiple times because I just like, I want it, I'm getting it, I don't care what I have to do. One thing on the depths, sort of like the overworld, it's still too barren. And like the depths, there's like nothing down there. There's some stuff that's kind of cool, just like visually. And then like you kind of think of like, oh, I wonder what the story was about this area that I'm in. But again, the overworld, there's not that much to actually like go to in terms of like towns.
Yeah.
And then the way that every time you are getting secrets, like, oh, do this and do that, and it leads to this hidden thing. And what's the hidden thing? It's just a freaking, what is it? I can't remember what your power up is in this one. The orbs or whatever. The thing that add to your heart meter.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it would just be one of those. And it's just like, so all that making it seem like it's this big deal, and it's just, oh, here's another thing to get more heart container. And I'm just like, what? Okay.
So I actually feel like the overworld in Tears of the Kingdom is too full of things compared to Breath of the Wild. And in particular, I feel like there are way too many little like quest hooks and NPCs and things telling you to go different places. It makes it feel like, I understand this game does not have wild in its name, but I do feel like some of that key sensation from Breath of the Wild of like figuring out where to go on your own is missing when you run into NPCs on the road who is like, oh, here, let me mark an X on your map. God, just like, shut up. Whereas I like, maybe not that surprising that I'm consistent in this way. Like, I like how empty the depths are in terms of both direction and landmarks. It makes it feel harder to navigate, like even beyond the darkness, trying to figure out where to go. And maybe it's a little more old school to have things be a little less hands-on from the designer's perspective. But I think that's part of why I really do like the depths. Yeah, that aspect of it I really do like. I wish, maybe this isn't surprising given that I played Breath of the Wild several times, including in Master Mode, but I wish the game was willing to get harder in terms of its combat. Like before Tears of the Kingdom came out, I was like, all right, what's going to be the new thing that's going to be even harder than Lionels? Because I'm so good at fighting Lionels at this point. And the answer is nothing. Like Gleeoks are not super challenging. The Froxes are not super challenging. The Gloomhands are super easy once you have like a 5-shot bow and know what you're doing with them. Like Lionels still feel like they're the apex predator. It's just there's a stronger version of the Lionel that has armor on it in the underworld, and that's it.
And there's not that many Lionels in this game.
Yeah, not really, no.
And the Gleeoks, that was a little disappointing, because it's like, oh, so just get midair, do your bow, and just do headshots, and then they go down. It's like, you just rinse and repeat that over and over.
Yeah, it's crazy, because like, between Fuse and Ultra Hand, whatever, like, there's so much more power that's been given to the player in this game that they just didn't meaningfully increase the power of the enemies you're fighting. I get it. Like the Gloom Hands are scary. That like they make a great first impression. But then I was like, well, I just stand in one spot and use bomb arrows over and over, and then they're gone. So that was disappointing. You guys covered most of what I would want to complain about with the story, but I do want to say, I think I've mentioned this either in text or to Angie in person previously, but like the ending of the game, like Zelda coming back from being a dragon, I think it more or less works for me. It is like literally Deus Ex Machina, but it seemed to me like basically it was the Triforce or the Golden Goddesses themselves basically taking mercy on Zelda. And given the scale of the sacrifice she had made, I don't think that's like unwarranted, even if it does make the idea of her sacrifice a little hollow. My complaints at the ending are more what you'd said about it just feeling kind of abridged. Like, that's it. And it, like you have this emotional segment where they're like echoing the start of the game where Link is reaching out for Zelda and can't grab her. He does manage to grab her, fall into the water, they're saved, and then it like cut to Zelda doing a Monday morning stand-up meeting with the Guardians about what they're going to do next. Like, it just, that does not connect.
Yeah, you know, and again, like Nintendo very deliberately showing you this one moment of emotional closeness that I would argue is maybe more than just friends between Link and Zelda, and that's all that you get.
Yeah.
There's no resolution there. You know, just like, oh yeah, you know, they probably care for each other a lot more than just friends, but oh well. That's just bizarre.
Yeah. End of the day, I did still like Tears of the Kingdom for sure, but I think not only do I like Breath of the Wild more, I like Link Between Worlds and the original Zelda more. Beyond that, I'm not sure exactly. It does make me think I don't want another one of these games, because I don't think Nintendo is going to recapture what I like about Breath of the Wild if they take another swing at that. So I would rather they just try something new and just accept that Breath of the Wild is the only game like that they're going to successfully make,
I agree.
for my tastes.
I think they claim too that they're not going to repeat the next. I
Yeah.
think they said the next Zelda is going to be something different. So I'm sure it'll borrow elements.
More linear, just
Yeah.
not open world, maybe.
We'll see.
I guess my thought to close this out there is just I'm at least glad that we got this iteration of Ganondorf, because he's my second favorite version of Ganondorf after Ocarina. I just thought he was pretty awesome. He was a huge highlight of the game for me.
I think Wind Waker is still the king, but I do think he does well in the role.
Wind Waker, absolutely, like top 3. But well, I think after, I don't know exactly how long after, I can't even remember anymore, but I think the next major title that we all played was Final Fantasy 16. We did not all beat it.
Who played 16?
Yeah, I think we all played
we
it.
all
Okay.
played it, but you and I beat it. Did you beat it, Dom?
No, I
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't
did
beat
not.
it.
And
beat
Robert
no.
didn't beat it.
I think. Do you care about spoilers, Dom?
No, you guys can go ahead. It's
Yeah,
fine,
because I know it's worth talking about, so I don't care what spoilers.
Okay. Well, so I guess Zach, you and I will drive a lot of this conversation, but I will start off by saying I haven't played nearly as much Final Fantasy as Zach. I've played 7, I've played 7 Remake, beat 7 Remake, got to the very end of 7, still haven't beat the original. I remember I played a fair amount of Tactics Advance, and I've played some 14. Also nowhere near as much as Zach, but played a good chunk of 14. 16 is the one that I would say that tied with maybe 7 Remake is the one that I've invested the most time in. I was blown away by 16's demo. I went in there with no expectations at all because, like I said, I've been exposed to very little Final Fantasy. I was blown away by that demo, and I was just like, I cannot wait for this game to come out. And when it came out, I blasted through it. It was all that I was playing for days. It was just incredible. Like, the combat was so fun. Having all the different icons and Clive being able to absorb all the different icons and basically being this kind of like icon master, and you can customize, which icon moves you want to use, which 3 icons you always want to have available at one time. It was just amazing. The story was super engaging. I was very invested in the story, and in particular Clive and Jill's relationship, and Torgal, like them as a trio. I just loved their story and their dynamic. And I don't think there was a single character, like I'm running through them in my head. I don't think there was a single character that I didn't like.
Mid.
Who?
Mid.
Oh, see, I already forgot. I mean, aptly named. But, yeah, Mid was the only one who I couldn't stand her. But everyone else, they were just so well written. They were well done. And the story was just, I was very engaged. Which is what made the ending, I was angry. And I know Zach expected it. Like, I know Zach expected that I was going to be unhappy. I don't know if he expected how angry that I got, but I just remember getting to the end, and I turned to him and I said, "That's it?" I said, "That's how this game ends?" And he said, "Yeah." And I just started, I was just losing my mind. I was like, how the fuck is this how this game ends? This is outrageous. Because, for some spoilers for Robert and Dom, they make it look like Clive dies. But there are a lot of details that happen that you're told throughout the game, and then that happen at the end that the consensus seems to be among most people, Clive is not dead. And
It's pretty split, honestly. What
Yeah.
they do is they killed both Clive and Joshua, but then imply that one of them must have survived. And then there are clues you can find in the game's story or themes that would argue for one or the other, but it doesn't tell you. And there's no guarantee that either of them survived.
So it's like the ending of Inception.
Yes, it's like the ending,
Yeah,
ending of Inception.
kind of. You can read it either way, but I think I do think it is fair, and not just because of my own bias here, to say that I do think actually that Clive lived, especially because there's more DLC planned for the game, and the outrage over how the game ended was so it was pretty big. So I was pretty irritated that Square, like, I get it. It's not the first time, a protagonist has died at the end. And in those games, it was not ambiguous. Like, they died. So it's not like this is new territory. It just really angered me because they truly have the player invested in the relationship between Jill and Clive and Torgal from the get-go.
Especially because the Jill-Clive relationship is a real slow burn.
Yes.
Like, it takes them 20 years to get around to it.
Oh my God. It was so frustrating how there would be so many moments where, like, I mean, Jill's practically throwing herself at Clive at some moments. She's being a lady about it, but she cannot make it any clearer that she wants this man. And he's just kind of dancing around it, and he's all nervous about it, whatever.
I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Joshua. Oh.
It's like, okay, can you pay attention? Okay.
Yeah. So it is frustrating how they finally are together, and then this is how the game ends. I do think that the relationship between Clive and Joshua is really nice, eventually seeing them come back together. But I do not think that their mother gets it good enough. It is angering. She's such a piece of shit. Like, it's been a long time since I played a game, and I was like, I really hope something horrible happens to this character. And the fact that she goes out on her own terms by her own hand, I was like, that's not justice. Like, oh man, it just made me so mad.
I'm sorry. She gets it good enough. No. She really does. Like, all she wanted in the world was to, like, produce the best heir to, like, for her family to rule over everyone else because she deserved it. Mm-hmm. Before she dies, she has to watch her perfect little son evaporate, right? And to have, like, not have even been himself for who knows how long.
The kingdom literally crumbles. What's his name?
She
Dion
has
destroys it.
Everything taken away from her. She's so fully defeated, so fully wrecked that she sees her surviving sons. Joshua was the only person she cared about, until she had this new kid, right? Mm-hmm. Even seeing him, like, her reaction is to slit her own throat because she can't believe that he's still, like, she is completely gone. She's completely gone.
They should have made her live. They should have made her live in squalor. So I was just mad that she got to go out like that. But
that's how I feel about anyone that doesn't get it good enough. Even if it's like what Zach's describing, like it's the perfect end for them. I'm like, yeah, but I want to see physical misery and torture.
Yeah, because
you guys all watched Game of Thrones, right?
I didn't, but Zach did.
Mm-hmm. Like Cersei, the queen. She just died.
You thought she didn't get it good enough?
She did not get it good enough, dude.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Game of Thrones.
The bricks just crumpled on her, right? That's how she died. Fuck that. Anyways.
Well, I think it's interesting because you mentioned Game of Thrones, and this is the first Final Fantasy game, excluding 14, right? Because 14's fantasy, right? Like, just fantasy-based theme.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're all fantasy.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
talking about medieval fantasy.
16 is truly medieval in a way that 14 has some elements of that. But,
okay, so that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
If you think, because let's see, so it's 14, then it's 15, this is 16. 15 is the one with the car, right?
That's right.
So I think it's interesting that they, for this one, went back to like a high fantasy kind of setting. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if it is at all kind of Game of Thrones influenced, because for one thing, this game's way more brutal than any other Final Fantasy. I was shocked at like the gore.
Yeah.
And then the cursing. I'm just like, am I playing Final Fantasy? Like, it's so funny. It feels more like, kind of like Game of Thrones, at least in that regard.
This was influenced by Game of Thrones. I think at least some of the dev team watched Game of Thrones in preparation.
Oh, see, there you go. So it's kind of funny that they did that, but it's at a point where Game of Thrones is maybe a little less relevant, but whatever. It's just a new show. But
I was surprised by the there's no sex, but the nudity. I also feel like it was an excuse to just show, like, look how well we can do skin. And not just on a face, like, like, oh, look, like shoulder skin, and like you can see some texture. There's definitely that really bizarre moment with Barnabas where he's like imagining that he's naked with, first it's who's Titan again? What's his name?
Kupka.
Yeah, first he's like naked with Kupka.
He's not imagining it.
He's not?
Ultima is transforming.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. So Ultima's the one, because Ultima becomes Kupka, and then Ultima becomes Benedicta. But then he becomes his mother?
Barnabas's mom.
Barnabas's mom? And I was like, what? Then that's how it ends. And you get no resolution. You get no explanation. I'm like, this is absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
But again, there's no sex scene. But I think the most shocking adult content, and it's actually approached in, you might call it a classy way, I guess, but Jill and Clive being naked together on the beach, and how like they're back to back, and there's this implication that maybe they have not seen each other undressed, like they tried to give each other some privacy, so they're just sitting there back to back naked, because it was like a whole thing involving the water and the ocean and blah blah blah, and so their clothes are drying on the beach, and so they're having this very heartfelt conversation, and it's when Jill gives Shiva to Clive. And instead of, and it's interesting because there's only 2 moments, I think, where Clive receives an icon and it's not a painful experience, and it's when he gets Ramu from Sid and Shiva from Jill.
Well, and Phoenix from
his brother
Joshua.
Yeah. But when they finally turn towards each other, and then they have this very close moment, and she gives him Shiva, and then it ends with them kissing and embracing, and then you can fill in the rest in your head. But like, I did think it was interesting how they are just kind of, for a long time, they're just sitting there naked talking to each other. But in like maybe from another dev they would have gone a different way with that, but in this case it was just it's almost like they're literally nude, but then I think there's also some symbolism like burying their souls and whatever.
Well, it's that Japanese, that delaying the gratification.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially with relationships, like, manga and anime is notorious for, like, not truly, like, they don't ever actually kiss, or if they do, it's, like, the last freaking panel of the series.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this, it's, like you said, it's over, like, decades of them, like, getting to that point. So it's, like, you can't get any more tension than they're actually naked, back to back, on the verge of the thing that you've been wanting for all this time. It's like,
and there's a lot of gratuitous nudity. Even like after you kill Benedicta, and for some reason Sid strips Clive nude, and he's like chained up in that cell, and he's naked. I'm just like, well, why did he take his clothes off? Like, why is he naked?
He was just a little curious.
Yeah, well, Sid tells him something about like, you're not my type. He says something about like, get dressed, like, you're not my type, whatever. But so there's some gratuitous a lot of stuff in the game, but it's,
you don't actually see him naked though. Is there any actual nudity?
You don't see any genitalia.
Okay.
And even for the women, like, they get as close as possible, but you never see anything. But like I said, it's all handled well. I think even the gore is handled well. The language is handled well. Just because it's, like an M-rated game doesn't mean that, like, they didn't go over the top with it. I think it was all handled well.
What did you think about this spectacle? In particular, like the Titan and Bahamut fights. But obviously those aren't the only examples.
So the Titan fight went on too long. It definitely overstayed its welcome for me by like phase 4 or whatever it was, 5. I swear, I think that battle was like 4 or 5 phases.
There's 3 phases.
Okay, it felt like 4. But by the last one, I was like, we could have cut a phase and it would have been fine. But it was, just in terms of the spectacle, it was incredible. Like, each boss, like, just kept getting bigger and grander. The music in this game is outstanding. And the fight music, like, I listen to it all the time. Like, I'll just be listening to it, just play it, on YouTube or whatever. It's just really good.
Well, speaking of audio, I mean, the voice acting is really good.
Oh, yeah.
I started with Japanese and the subtitles because that's kind of the standard for a lot of games these days. But then I think Angie and Zach were the ones who said, no, like, this game, like, specifically, even the mouths are animated to match the American the English voice acting. And I was like, oh, okay. So I put it on. I was like, oh wow, like this is really good. Like everyone's cast really, really well.
Yeah.
The Final Fantasy series has really stepped up its game. I mean, it was pretty good in 12, but starting with Heavensward and then 15, 16, like they've really done a good job of finding voice talent.
7 remake is outstanding. But
Let's not talk about Crisis Core Reunion.
But so the spectacle is pretty great. The Bahamut fight was unreal. Some of the, I just can't to get into the heads of the devs and what they were imagining initially and how it finally came to life. It's pretty impressive. But
well, graphically, like so impressive. It's only on PS5 right now. Is that right?
So far, yeah.
So there's no PS4 iteration. Right?
No.
So you can just kind of tell that there was never going to be a PS4 iteration for this. Like just the level of detail and scale is through the roof, and it is slightly sad that we had to wait this long to kind of see, like, oh, so this is what PS5 can do, you know, like without any limitations. Because when you're having to scale things for the last gen, there's it limits you. This game really cut loose, and it's been just so neat looking at all the different locations and
the bounties, those like monsters,
Yeah.
that was very, very fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. And that last dragon, man, that fight made me so angry, but I eventually did it and I cleared them all, and it was just a great challenge, and in particular because combat is just so fun. I think my closing comment is like, I don't know if it was my favorite game of the year, but it was very high up there. And having Clive to look at for dozens of hours was pretty nice. But yeah, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked the combat. I think I wish let's see. I feel like the combat, there's a lot of like regular sword swings you have to like mix in while you're waiting for your cooldowns. And there's like a little bit of me where it's like, I wish there was like a little more interesting things to do in between the cooldowns. But I do think that like the mechanics around like choosing which icon abilities, which cooldowns you're going to equip, and how you string them together, what you use to like build stagger versus what you use to build a combo multiplier once they are staggered. All that stuff works pretty well. I felt like there was a fair bit of freedom about how I wanted to approach combat, and I was changing out my loadout repeatedly over the 2 playthroughs I did. And for a while, I was all in on Odin's abilities, which is like this whole separate thing where you're like building up this 5-part meter and then killing everything at once.
Yeah.
And like I was enjoying that, but I got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready for something new, and went for like a more Shiva-focused build. Anyhow, I thought the combat mechanics were generally pretty good and felt great. But I wish that the game had harder fights to actually like flex on, because outside the Chronolith trials, like I think there were only like a couple of bounties that really felt like they were really testing me. Svarog, like that last dragon, was one of them. The Behemoth King, and not much else. So I'm actually looking forward to the DLC, because I would like to see this combat system put against more interesting and difficult combat challenges.
Is there New Game Plus?
There is New Game Plus.
Have you done that? Or
I have done that.
Oh, you
yeah.
have?
Yeah. It's like, it's a little like you have to clear New Game to do the hard mode. That's New Game Plus, where like it just scales everything up to where it expects you to be.
Could you play hard mode on a fresh start, like without the New Game
you have
Plus
to.
option? It has to be New Game Plus.
That's right.
Interesting.
But hard mode is like it's tuned to be what you do with a fully powered up character. So in that way, it's more like 7 Remake also has a hard mode for New Game Plus, where like everything is max level, and it assumes you're max level. So it's kind of like balanced for what you do once you have a fully kitted out character, rather than being like a hard difficulty mode, generally speaking. I think that could have stood to be a little harder. There's like a little less forgiveness in like how combat is balanced, but because you've played the game already, it's still not really any harder than the original playthrough in my experience. Yeah, but I did really like the combat. I feel like some of the side quests were very good, but most of the side quests were not. Most of the side quests felt like they were just kind of filler. And like, it's like, well, I'm getting some free equipment for this or some free experience for this. But if it weren't for that, or if it weren't for they were prerequisites for more interesting side quests, I wouldn't recommend doing them.
Could have taken notes from Witcher 3 on that end, huh?
Yeah. I think both Tears of the Kingdom and Final Fantasy 16 could have taken some notes from Witcher 3 in various ways.
I did like the side quests where you got the items that Clive would put on his wall of memories.
Mm-hmm.
Those were some of the stronger ones because they were all like tied to these people that he cared about.
Yeah, those are like all the capstone side quests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also liked how when you would beat an icon and you'd get a piece of material that was specific to that icon, and you'd take it to the blacksmith and you could build upon your sword. Every iteration, like every icon specific sword was very cool. Like they all were designed well, and I liked that they changed. Like his sword actually looked different with every iteration. So
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I know I already agreed, but I will emphasize the music in this is very good. It must be my favorite soundtrack of the year. I don't know what else would even compare. I, by and large, really like the story, too, including some of those side quests towards the end. Like the resolution of like Dion and Hippocrates side quest, that final side quest with Torgal, where you like go to like basically that treehouse.
That one made me cry.
Yeah.
There were multiple times in the game, including the ending, where I was just crying pretty hard.
Yeah, and like for as much as I do wish I had more explicit closure in the ending, like I understand what they were going for. It feels like it's, there's definitely aspects to Final Fantasy 16 where they're like trying to make it feel like a Final Fantasy game as much as possible. But one of the like it feels like Final Fantasy Tactics in particular was a really central touchstone that they were working from, including having Ultima be the last boss. I think it's the only other game where that's happened. But the ending of Tactics also, like the whole framing of Tactics is around like the historical record is unreliable. Here's what really happened. And then the ending still leaves the actual historical facts kind of open. So I understand that's what they're like referencing or trying to do at the end of the game. I'm still frustrated by it. But on the way to that ambiguous ending, there are some like real beautiful scenes and emotional moments. I broke out crying. Do you remember like Clive starts having those like flashbacks to like basically being knighted, and then seeing his brother get born?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the very end.
Yeah.
I think, isn't that when he's holding him and he's dying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good moment.
Like that stuff hit really hard. I think I broke out crying when Clive, like in the moment where he's receiving the Phoenix's power, when he like just does that like wink at Joshua.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I broke out crying there. I do think, I like there are parts of the game that feel like there's too much filler, and I think the combat needed to test me a little more, but I still definitely very positive on the game.
The one thing I'll add that I forgot, the real-time lore was extremely helpful.
Oh, that was really cool.
That was really, really cool. You could just, in the middle of a cutscene, you wouldn't miss anything, you wouldn't skip anything, just press the pad, and it would tell you, like, everyone that was on screen, give you not just some brief information about them, but information about them as it related to that moment in that time.
Yep.
So if you were lost at all, and then also like where in the world you were, or whatever concept they were talking about, like taking like active time lore or whatever it was called, they meant that literally.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very helpful and very well done.
Oh, also like massive kudos to like the English voice cast in general. Sid in particular was just like
Stand out.
butter. He sounded so good. Also, like for as minor as a villain as she was, she's like a first half of season 1 kind of villain in the story. But Benedicta's whole arc, her performance, everything about
She's
her,
great.
pitch perfect. Loved Benedicta.
I was gonna say maybe just a couple things on it, but before I do, not that the Game Awards, picks for Game of the Year mean that much to us, but do you think it was snubbed overall because it wasn't picked in the top 6?
I think
or
it
5?
was snubbed.
Yeah, just from the little bit I played, I felt the same.
Yeah.
It's not nominated for Game of the Year?
No.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know if it got anything. Well, it's probably nominated for like RPG of the Year, and probably soundtrack also, but I think that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
I think it was snubbed big time.
But like it didn't get a nomination for, I don't know how they bucket these things, but like look, it's got combat design from like the Devil May Cry guy, and it didn't get a nomination for Action Game of the Year.
Yeah, it got put into RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it should have been action too.
Yeah,
I
this is
agree.
definitely not a traditional RPG combat
Everything
system.
could be an
No.
RPG.
Yeah.
Now, everything.
Yeah.
You can apply something
Yeah,
to a
Liza
sword.
P is nominated for RPG
See, like,
Why is that?
Right.
No.
because there's a stat system, right?
No,
Like,
I
yeah,
wouldn't have put that.
this
in
is all
RPG.
kind of strange, right?
Yeah.
it is.
Whatever.
It is.
16's exclusion might be political
I
because
agree.
Hogwarts was definitely political. It's not nominated for anything. I think
That got
they
snubbed,
made
in
a-
my opinion. I love
Well, I think
Hogwarts.
they came out and said like we're not nominating it for the obvious,
Oh,
controversy.
wow.
And so 16 maybe a little bit because it was getting some kind of political backlash for different reasons.
Yeah, so when Final Fantasy 16 released, I had just made a purchase of a new TV. So I was so happy I got this, LG OLED TV. And what better way to really see, the difference and just how good this game looks, and that be the first game I play.
Yeah.
I just remember turning it on and the cutscenes and then, the fight between, I don't remember the names.
Phoenix
honestly.
and Ifrit.
Yeah.
fucking-
Yeah.
And the way the colors just pop on the screen,
Yeah.
and it was just smooth as butter. Like it looks so good, and I think it's 30 frames if I'm not mistaken. Right? It's not like
Probably.
a 60 frames game. Anyways, I just remember playing in my living room, and I was home alone that day. I had the sound system like all the way up,
Oh my god!
and just mesmerized by this thing.
So just imagine hearing like Ifrit,
Yeah.
the way he'd get so angry,
One of
over
your
the
neighbors
top.
is somewhere just
Yeah.
going, what the hell is
Yeah.
happening?
I think there's some sort of a dispute happening.
No, I know. You've both said something like that, and I absolutely agree. I still remember like when I was like 8 or whatever, and I played Mega Man 2 for the first time and saw how big like the dragon and the Guts Dozer were, and I was like, I didn't know graphics could be this amazing, right?
Yeah.
And like I would have that experience sometimes like throughout the 90s, like the FMVs in Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, maybe 10. And then after that, I just stopped being impressed by things. I don't know if I just started taking it for granted, but like I didn't think I was ever going to see visuals in a game that made me kind of like jaw drop, like, oh my God, the way I did when I was like playing Final Fantasy 7 and saw Sephiroth removing like Genova from a tank in Nibelheim. But this game absolutely,
Yeah.
like, I don't understand how, because like real-time graphics are already super impressive with games these days. Like pre-rendered cutscenes are obviously amazing. Like people have been trying to push this envelope forever, and yet I got a sensation with a lot of the cutscenes in Final Fantasy 16 that I like just have not been present for me for like 20 years.
It's an interesting feeling when that happens. I've talked
Yeah.
about that with my game design students, how like because everything has been HD since like the 360 PS3 era, it's like you kind of have to try harder now to have like a game that looks awful. And especially when you have like engines like Unreal where like everything's just kind of thrown there for you, and so it's like you go from the days of like Zack with Mega Man 2. For me, it would probably be seeing like Donkey Kong Country and Mario RPG for the first time. Those were just like mind blowing. Like, wow, like this looks so incredible. The transition to 3D, because that was just, it doesn't matter how low poly they were. It was just like uncanny seeing like 3 dimensions.
Ocarina.
So you
stands out.
start taking for granted that, but also it's almost like, well, what tricks do you still even have left at this point? It's like, well, now it's HD and it's super 3D. But then every once in a while, something like this comes along and you're just like, oh, okay, that's pretty special.
Yeah, I'm super early. I got to get back to playing it. I did the whole prologue. I think I had 2 icons. But the combat, I love the combat. The quick time events or whatever, they're all easy. The timing windows, like you have to purposely miss it. Seriously, right?
Yeah.
But that goes to Zach's difficulty point, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I need to get back to the game because it really hooked me, but I just got distracted by other games for whatever reason. But I will get back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the point where Sid dropped dead. I have to get back into it too.
Oh, poor Sid.
I was bothered that they killed him off. I was like, okay.
Back to what you were saying, though, how you sort of don't see, graphics being groundbreaking as much. For me, it was always Madden and NBA 2K, like every iteration, especially like from generations of consoles. You're like, holy crap, that looks so real. Look, you can see the sweat on their faces now.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of plateaued a little bit.
Yeah.
Like NBA 2K24 compared to last year. So like
Yeah.
it'd be very hard to know which one's which.
Yeah.
Because graphics are so good now.
I mean, we say that.
Right,
10 years,
exactly.
10 years, you're going to be on PS7 or something and just being like, man,
That's very true.
I thought PS5 was good.
That's very true.
It does, at some point, I do wonder if we'll hit kind of a wall with how real you can make it look.
I think Final Fantasy 16 proves there's more to it than real. Like the elements that make it fantastical are not necessarily like, you know, poly counts or textures strictly. It's like knowing where to make the colors just unreal enough that they captivate
the
you.
Visual design,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
It's not so much the photorealism. Like,
Yeah.
Well, look at the big relics
faces,
that are all throughout the realm in Final Fantasy 16. Like, you know, you have to imagine that. It's not just a matter of like, well, can I make this really look like it's made of marble? It's like, yeah, but what does the thing you're making look like it's made of marble?
Their use of color, too.
Yeah.
Like their use of color and like all those dramatic cutscenes.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
It really is just amazing what they did.
When you get to the Bahamut fight, that kind of blew my mind. It was just like the camera angles, the different kind of dimensions you're working with when you're fighting, but also just like Bahamut, because Bahamut's a light dragon. The light and the intensity of the light and all of it, I was just like, this is wild. This is crazy.
The crystal wyvern tail absolutely made my jaw drop when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back
Yeah.
to it.
All right, what's next?
Yeah.
Before we move on to Baldur's Gate 3, did you want to say anything about either Midnight Suns or Diablo 4? I know you.
Well, if we're all going to talk about kind of what we've been playing, I put a lot of time into Marvel Midnight Suns. Super random. I don't think it came out this year.
No, it did. It was earlier this year. It was like a May release, I think.
Really?
I thought so. Like, that's what I...
Honestly, I thought it was 2022, so it is kind of relevant. Okay.
I'll double check, but
Okay.
you can talk about it either way.
So after Tears, I just started bouncing around from games. I was just purchasing games. I played Armored Core a little bit, Baldur's Gate 3, which we'll talk about. I played Lies of P a little bit, and then I found myself playing Marvel Midnight Suns. And so Marvel Midnight Suns is basically a card-based game. And
It's from the XCOM people, right? It's like a card-based version of...
yeah, it definitely feels similar to XCOM. So you have story missions, and you have what they call general missions, and you go into the battlefield and you pick typically three characters, and they're all Marvel characters. And you use your deck to do moves, and your goal is to beat all the enemies on the field. Some of it is stop this car from driving off, stop this helicopter from flying off. But overall, I mean, the combat in that game was a highlight for me. If it did come out this year, I think so far it's my game of the year. Not just because of how much time I put into it. I just feel the combat was perfect.
It came out in 2022, but the last gen version didn't come out until May this year, which is what I saw.
Oh,
I
last
tripped
gen.
up by.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So long story short, I played through the story, the main story, and all the DLC. And the good thing about it is there are so many characters to choose from, and you can sort of build your team throughout the story. And throughout the story, you unlock more characters. So for an example, once I unlocked Wolverine, I knew right away he was going to be a main. His skill set was awesome. He could just go around the whole board, do multiple attacks at once. And then there's just so many little quirks to the battle system. For example, if a card reads quick on it, if you kill an enemy using this card, you get your turn back, basically. And so you just can put so many... You can customize your deck based on that. You can have like high strength cards, things like that. And so I did the DLC before I finished the actual story. And in doing so, I realized that Venom, who I wasn't originally going to use, was an amazing character to use. His skill set was even better than Wolverine. So, you can customize it to how you like to play. You can pick your favorite characters if you want. There's a lot to Midnight Suns I didn't like beyond the gameplay. There's an element of like making friends and relationships, and there's like you're in the house and you can do activities with them, go on dates, so to speak, and this all builds your friendship level. And apparently, high friendship gets you stat boosts. I honestly didn't notice a difference between a character I had a high friendship level with compared to a low, but apparently it's a little bit in the background. But if you're a Marvel fan, I can't recommend it enough. Played it like a month straight. I think I have almost 100 hours in the game.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's my little bit on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one who played it, so you guys can move on.
Yeah, it was the friend making social stuff that drove me away from trying it.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all, but I was able to persevere.
I think the only game I played that I can think of between this episode and the last one that I was the only one playing, I went back to the original Paper Mario on Nintendo Switch Online. I hadn't played that game since the 90s or whatever, early 2000s when it was on N64. So it was kind of like playing it again for the first time because it had been so long. And I won't go too much into it. If you played it, you played it. You know how it goes. But I was. It was interesting seeing how it was this very early example. Obviously, Mario RPG came first, but this early example in the Paper Mario series of really trying to make the writing a little bit more, have even more personality than even Mario RPG did. And there are weird little things that they don't do anymore, like at the end, like Tasty, for example, the toad who will cook you food. At the end of some of her sentences where she's kind of saying something nice to Mario, there's a little heart symbol, and it feels very Japanese. It also feels just kind of early, just kind of like an early thing that it was maybe a little less sophisticated that they eventually took out, but it added to the personality of the game. And some of the writing is a little bit stiff, and because they still just hadn't found their stride yet in the way that they finally did with Thousand Year Door. But just getting there and reading some of the dialogue, it was making me laugh, and I forgot how good that game was. Super solid mechanics, and I'm almost done with it, actually. I got pretty far. I was just kind of blasting through it, but it's a great game, and I'm glad that I revisited it. But
Nice.
yeah.
I think Dom has also played it, it sounds like, but I know you two haven't played it. I mentioned Sonic Superstars. So first 4-player Sonic with 3D, well, not with the first one with 3D graphics, the Sonic 4 was the first with that, but it uses the Mania engine, so it feels right in terms of gameplay. So it's nice that they've finally been able to move the series forward with 3D modern graphics with the 2D gameplay, and it feels like Sonic should. I do think that the 4-player multiplayer is just a little bit too much for the game to handle. I had my college students sit and play it in class, and I was like, all right, 4 of you come up, and it's on the big projector on the screen in the room, and they're sitting and playing, and because it's so fast, even though I can tell Sega tried to temper the speed a little bit in this game, there's a little bit more platforming versus running, I feel, at times. Even with that, it's still too fast to accommodate for 4 people at once. So what happens is, like, one person will get too far ahead, and then the game will just, like, zap the others into, like, a bubble, basically, and bring them forward.
Okay.
That was just going on way too much. But the other multiplayer, it's like a battle mode. It's so throwaway. It's completely inoffensive. It's just, like race, zap each other, stuff like that. And it was just nothing that made me want to keep going to it. But part of the problem is that in the single player, you're collecting coins or medallions, whatever they are. And as you collect them, they allow you to unlock stuff for the battle mode. But since the battle mode's not very interesting, it's like, well, I'm not going to go bother trying to find these medals then. Like, who cares? But you take that part of it away and you just focus on the single-player campaign, and it's good. It's very fun. I think tonally the music could be better. It's not just T. Lopes. It's Sega mixed with T. Lopes, and like the tracks where Lopes is doing it, you could tell. Like the Speed Jungle, I think. Like, if that's not him, I will eat my shoe. Like, I'm like, this has to be him. But it's just very fun. It's very well done. The levels are designed nicely.
Looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good. Are you playing it on PS5 now?
Series.
On the series?
Yeah.
So it must look way better. I've been playing it on the Switch, and I thought it looked good on the Switch, but I can't wait to play it on better hardware, because I know it's going to look even more impressive.
It runs very smooth. It looks nice.
But yeah, it's a solid game, and I hope that if Sega continues, in the future doing the 2D Sonic games, that it's like, don't touch that engine. Like, just keep using the Mania engine at its core, because it's powering it very well. And it's why Sonic 4 is just not quite right. Like when you play Sonic 4, it's not the visuals, you know, and the music is whatever. It's that when you're playing it, he just doesn't feel the way he should in 2D. And it's like, here you go, you figured it out, so don't mess it up. But it's Sega, so I know they're gonna do something.
Yeah. Before we do Baldur's Gate, I just want to give one shout out to I played through Cocoon. It released very recently. I believe it's on Game Pass too. So it's like a puzzle game. I want to say it's by the same people who made Limbo and Inside.
Oh, it is one of the
At least the lead designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Cocoon has some of the best level design I've ever seen and experienced. The ins and outs of, you know, one of the main mechanics is you have these orbs and you can sort of enter into the orb, and then you can bring other colored orbs there with you, and each color has their own sort of I guess mechanic that you can do. One, you can teleport. One is almost like a light that creates platforms as you walk with it. The other will transport you from one area to another. And all that said, the game probably took me, I don't know, 5-6 hours, maybe 7. And I beat it in 2 sittings, and I was hooked. You know, 3-hour sittings.
Yeah.
And I can't recommend it enough. So if you want a change of pace game that looks stunning and has really good game mechanics, I would definitely try it out. It's on Game Pass too, so you know everybody should have access to that.
I'm gonna try that.
Seriously, give it a try.
Really good.
I don't know if it's Xbox exclusive though. Is it, or is it on Switch?
I don't know. I don't think it's on Switch yet.
Yeah.
I'll double check. But it's Limbo. What was the other one you said?
Inside.
Inside. Both those games are amazing.
They are
so
amazing.
I want to play Cocoon.
And it has that vagueness to it too that you kind of have to try to figure it out. I can't even tell what you are. I think you're like this moth creature looking thing,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, it has a really strange story, I heard.
And then one other thing, it's a puzzle game at its core. However, every orb you fight a boss. And every boss has its own sort of gameplay associated with it. And even to the very end boss, I was pretty impressed by the level design, or by the design of the bosses.
Okay.
Yeah, it got me hooked. There was never a spot where I got, you know, bored or wanted to turn it off. I just wanted to keep playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had to use a guide one time because one of the puzzles I was just, and then once I started looking at the walkthrough or whatever for that particular part, I'm like, oh my god, that makes sense. You know?
You know, I put this on my fantasy draft list almost as an afterthought and haven't really thought about it since then because I didn't really like what I'd played of Limbo that much and kind of like, it was like, whatever. But I kind of feel like I need to look at it in a little more detail now.
It's nothing like Limbo or Inside. Like nothing.
Okay.
Those are 2D side-scrolling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is top-down view. And it's just puzzle. I mean, it's puzzle-based, but you'll see when you play it what I'm talking about. You're just going to keep playing. Next thing you know, it's like 3 hours pass and I'm halfway through the game. But for real, give it a try, guys.
Okay.
Any other last-minute additions before we get to Baldur's Gate 3?
No, I think.
All right.
Yeah, so you and Dom played Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. And I think from pretty different perspectives, because for me, this is something like the 10th vaguely Dungeons and Dragons based CRPG that I've played. I don't know if you've played any of the like previous Baldur's Gate or Divinity or any of those.
No, first time.
So what's it like for you?
Okay, so I'm pretty early. I know you said that you got through mainly Act 1.
Yeah.
As I look at a couple walkthroughs online, I think I'm really early in Act 1, so I at least got through the prologue. But that's another game that I was really hooked. I think your experience with these type of games helps because it is one of those games that is, you want to talk about hand holding? This is the opposite. Like there is really nothing, there's a lot of gameplay elements that I probably wouldn't have discovered by myself without looking it up first. But the story is great. It runs amazing on PS5. I know that this is more of a PC game, but it runs well on PS5. The graphics are amazing. The customization in the game is unreal. I think I spent probably an hour and a half on my create a character, you know, because it was just so many options. But yeah, the D&D element of it, I just know a little bit from Stranger Things, I guess. You know, like the mind flayers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have much to say on it because I'm very early. But I do like the combat and then the characters and everything.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
So I like playing games with the controller where I can, and that's kind of one of the things that I most dislike, I guess, about CRPGs in general is they tend to be better with like mouse and keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
This developer, Larian's previous game, Divinity Original Sin 2, I was kind of lukewarm on that, but they do a much better job of like a controller experience than most other CRPGs. So I appreciate that. I think that it does. I kind of want to say that at least tentatively, I think the original Icewind Dale is still my favorite of these D&D type games, but it's really good. I think it does a good job of giving you a lot of opportunity to figure out how you want to approach every situation you find yourself in and mess it up most of the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh wait, I didn't mean to say that. Or you miss a skill check
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but when you fail a skill check in one of these games, and this is very true of Baldur's Gate 3, you're presented with like an interesting situation as a result of that.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of like roll with it and still enjoy what happens.
Roll with it.
There you go. Yeah. I like the characters enough. Even the characters that kind of annoy me, like Astarion, who's kind of like the super sarcastic
Voice
vampire
acting, I
rogue.
think, helps a lot with that, where you're
Yeah.
kind of going toward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I generally like the characters. I think that the world is a lot of fun to explore. There's something that I definitely like this more than Divinity, where this Divinity almost felt like it was like a little toy box diorama world, whereas a lot of older CRPGs feel more expansive, even though everything is so tiny on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Baldur's Gate 3, I think, does a pretty good job of splitting the difference, where it feels like this really condensed world, but like this slice of it feels real still. And then the combat has been pretty good. Like, it hasn't completely blown me away, but I've liked what I've played. The thing about Baldur's Gate 3 has been that it's just like, it's a very dense game. Like, every area, there's just so much. Even just Act 1 is bigger than most video games.
Yeah.
It's like part of the reason I mentioned earlier before we recorded that I got all the way through Act 1 and then kind of took a break. And part of that was because I was waiting for like patches to like clean up the experience of the back half of the game, but also part of it is just like, that's a lot of game. And this is experience that I've had with other CRPGs where I just have to take a break partway through because they are so long and there's so many decisions and so many quests to manage. Like, it's cool that they're that dense, but it can also be overwhelming.
Yeah. You know, I'm taking the approach with this game that I just sort of want to go with, just play it with no expectations as far as I need to collect this, I need to make the right decision here, just kind of whatever happens, happens. The only problem with that is that I'm finding I'm missing a lot of gameplay elements that, you know, are very helpful. You know, like certain menu options, being able to split up your party even while exploring the, you know, I didn't realize you could split up your party till probably hour 10. So, you know, there's a lot of little things that, you know, I wish was more in your face. But
yeah, the splitting up is mostly, I think, useful for like if you have like one rogue or one sneaker you want to like look ahead. Although there's some like really kind of degenerate stuff you can do too with like one character like distracting an NPC and others go behind their back. So there's like
so many layers.
So many things. I don't know if it like it's too certain to say how it really ranks for me with compared to other CRPGs, but I do think at this point it would be my go-to recommendation for like a first CRPG for somebody. It's just impressive and like for the genre fairly intuitive. I know that probably sounds crazy given the experience of it, but these are like super mechanics dense games that often expect the player to like spend a lot of time looking under the hood, either acclimating themselves to the full rule book for an actual Dungeons and Dragons game or just like reading every like help menu in the game and trying to figure that out.
Remind us what CRPG means.
Computer RPG. So like that's technically what it stands for, but what it usually refers to is games that are made for like PC gamers first and foremost, with a mouse and keyboard first and foremost, usually isometric view, kind of zoomed out, where you're controlling a whole party of characters, often but not necessarily based on Dungeons and Dragons style tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think that as a CRPG, if it's as popular as it is, did it sell really well? I know it was rating really well, but is it selling through the roof too?
Yeah. Like concurrent player counts on Steam are like way higher than anyone anticipated.
See, and that's fascinating because it feels, at least from like a mainstream gamer, like console gamer standpoint, like it seems niche, but the fact that it's reaching so many people is pretty cool.
Right. This is like finding out that a new SimCity was the top selling game of the year. You're like, what is going on?
And it's interesting too because really we mentioned the Game Awards. It's in the running for Game of the Year, and we had all kind of debated internally like who we think might take it home. I actually think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be the one. Because I think that they're gonna say Tears is too derivative, and there was another one
Mario.
that
You mentioned Mario.
I just can't imagine them giving it to Mario.
Spider-Man is just more Spider-Man.
Yes, everything's just more, including even RE4. It's just a remake of 4. But like Baldur's Gate 3 seems like it's the one where it's just like, yeah, this one really did something different this year. It's gonna get it.
Yeah, other podcasts that I listen to, a lot of them think anything Baldur Gate's in the running for, it's gonna sweep. Even soundtrack, I've heard the soundtrack is like really good. So we'll see. But that's surprising, right? Like you were saying, SimCity, you know,
Yeah.
in a sense, it's like
It's
I
good,
never
though.
heard of Baldur's Gate before, and that I mean,
Well, I mean, the last one came out in like the year 2000, so it's not.
oh yeah,
Baldur's
I
Gate
guess
2
that makes
came out in
sense.
like the year 2000. There was also like some kind of like half DLC expansion called Siege of Dragonspear that was lower budget that came out in like 2011 or 2012. I wanted no, it was like 2014 or 2015, I think, because there was a Gamergate reference in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's good
But
to
it's
see
been a while.
something new.
I
there.
yeah, I've heard Baldur's Gate. It's never been something that's interested me, but I feel bad because whenever I hear Zach fire it up on his Steam Deck, it's just endless, just talking, and I'm like, oh, what? Can't he
Yeah, it's
play
a lot of talking.
Why can't he play something else? And, you know,
Everything's voice acted,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
except your own character.
Like usually I'm, playing something, so it's not like I'm like watching it on the TV or something, but I'm always just like, this sounds boring.
It's funny, we were talking about, the difference between an action game, action RPG, and an RPG.
Yeah.
You want to talk about an RPG.
Yeah.
straight up.
This is
Yeah.
straight up
Yeah.
RPG. Like, there's zero question about it.
Yeah.
I feel bad for everything else nominated in the RPG category because like
What was the next title after Baldur's Gate?
by release date it would be Lies of P.
Oh boy, Zach has been having an interesting time with Liza P.
Yeah, I think you guys might remember
Another pick of mine.
Yeah.
My, championship team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
You guys might remember earlier in the year we were recording a podcast and I was talking about Blasphemous. And I said that no game I've ever played has resulted in such a high density of me saying, what the fuck? Like just crazy imagery, like that bowl that gets split in half and there's a giant golden baby inside.
Yeah.
I can't remember a game with such a high density of me just like yelling at the TV, just like, are you kidding me?
Like I was worried at some point, like at a couple points, that you were gonna like break a controller or something.
I'm not going to
But-
break a controller.
But I will say, I'll just add in my 2 cents here before you, because you're going to do the most talking about this for sure. I played the demo. I really enjoyed the demo, and I remember saying I wanted to play this game. And I do remember that Zach was a little like iffy about my want to play this game. I don't know if he was sure if I'd be up for it. I actually kind of understand his doubts. It's pretty intense.
Because you started and then kind of bounced off Dark Souls 3, and you started and kind of bounced off Bloodborne.
Yeah. And it's not like I dislike those games. I just, something always pulls me away from them. And like even the Liza P demo, I didn't finish the demo.
You beat the Parade Master, or you got to the Parade
I
Master?
got to the Parade Master.
Yeah.
So it was fun, but yeah, I mean, like without question, it's a pretty intense game. Zach was having trouble with a particular boss.
Scrapped Watchman.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how early on that character, that boss was, just given the level of intensity. And so I hadn't played for months, because like I hadn't played since the demo. So Zach was just really raging about this one. So I gave it a shot. I was just like, let me just try, give him some time to cool off. And so I was able to actually pick it up again pretty fast. Zach just quickly reminded me what the button mapping was. Picked it up. Man, I was getting my ass kicked pretty bad. But then,
This wasn't the Scrapped Watchman. Scrapped Watchman was what had me screaming during the demo. I did not finish the demo. Fuoco. Flame Master Fuoco.
Yeah, that was the one. And
Fuoco him.
well, I just
Many similar things were said.
Yeah, like I actually got to the point where I got him down pretty close. It was way below half of his life bar was left, and I did eventually like start to get into a rhythm, and I approached it in a different way than Zach did, and it was working for me. Although you could say arguably how well was it working for you if you kept dying, but I was getting better at it, and I was every time I'd die he was deeper and deeper down into his life bar.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the comparison because Angie was doing more like dodging and keep away.
Yeah.
And I was just leaning into like blocking and trying to get like the perfect blocks to try and because I'm my general approach has been to like do charged R2s where I can, to parry when I can, to get enemies into like that stun state and get the fatal blows.
And I was just like, not only do I not really play that way, just generally speaking, but I was also like, if that's what Zach's been doing, let's try something else. And I started
Just process of elimination.
Yeah, and I noticed that he was starting to like I could lure him. So like I could like lure him into attacking me, and I started to really get down the timing for dodging. So I just started to basically, like Zach said, play keep away with him, where I'd lure him into attacking me, and then I'd dodge and I'd chip away at his health a little bit, do it over and over again. And then I was also playing this waiting game where like he'll do this unblockable charge. And so I would wait for him to do it, dodge, and then rush in and get some flurry blows in, and then it was the second half of the battle that was giving me problems. But there are still some issues that were present in the demo of like the never really feeling like you're getting close enough. Like you think that you might be close enough and you're not. And then by the time
just like physically being able to hit the enemy.
Yeah, and then like by the time you try to rush in to get a little bit closer, he's already taken a swing at you and you're getting hit pretty bad. So I do feel like the distance that is put between you and the enemy when you dodge is too great, and it takes too long to try and close it before he's already taken a swing at you.
The issue is that enemies have generally like bosses have longer range than you do, substantially. So the boss tries to like swing at you and you either block or dodge. You're not in a position to counter unless you rolled into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even that move I was telling you about, that unblockable charge move where you just have to get out of the way. There would be times where I was just chasing after him. You know, he'd run for so long. It was such a big room. And so that also felt a little awkward, where I felt like if the room was maybe a little smaller or just something else where like there wasn't so much space between me and him that I had to close before he turned around and started swinging again. I ultimately did not end up beating it for Zach. Zach, beat it on his own. But I would like to get back into it. Like I'll probably just wait till Zach's done with it. It's no rush because I'm playing some other stuff right now. But it's fun. I think that the aesthetics of the world, I think the story and everything is pretty engaging. And again, touched on this last time, the fact that it's Pinocchio, but very dark, is very unique and very interesting, but it's definitely hard. It is a hard game.
It's that long-standing tradition of getting the random fairy tale that's been turned into something else, because there was Alice, like the Alice games.
Yep.
Now it's Liza P.
Liza P, at the end, we found out sequel teases an Oz game.
There's a whole legion of Oz people out there. They're like,
Yeah, because I didn't care about ruining the story for myself, because I'm realistic. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to be able to beat this game. So I just read the story, and I had asked Zach, do you want spoilers? And initially he said no. And then after the Fuoco fight, he was like, I don't care about ruining this game's story. You can just tell me about it.
Because at that point I was like, based on today's experiences, I don't know if I'm going to finish this.
Yeah, so... told him about it, and at the end of the game, like, there are multiple endings and different things, different decisions you make, whether or not you choose to lie, how much you lie. It all impacts the multiple endings you can get, but one of the endings you can get does tease a possible Oz game with Dorothy potentially as the next protagonist.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool.
I was like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I like the game on balance. I do think it's like aesthetics and like the way it adapts the Pinocchio myths and like the enemy design, just kind of like the vibes and look of the game are really strong. I think it's like absolute triumph on that basis. I do think like the level design, like for a Souls-like, the level design is not quite there. It just kind of feels like I'm mostly just walking down corridors fighting a couple enemies at a time. Whether I'm comparing it to like actual FromSoft games or some other Souls-likes like Lords of the Fallen, which I'll probably talk about shortly, I do think it comes up a little short in that respect. And then in combat, like I understand this is deliberate to some degree because you're playing a mechanical creature fighting other mechanical creatures, but everything feels a little clunky. And I can say, like, I understand that makes sense because it's machine versus machine, but I don't like it feeling clunky. And so, like, I'm getting by, but I also am not getting, like, the catharsis or satisfaction I got playing Final Fantasy 16 or Wo Long, just to name a couple games that came out this year. So it's definitely not anything like an all-timer for me, even compared to other, like, Souls-like games specifically, but I'm having a good time.
Yeah. For me personally, to my, I guess, detriment, I'll miss out on games like this because when I started up and, you know, a Souls-like game like this, it's almost like my mentality is I just want to go play Sekiro now. Because that's perfection, right? I mean, that is, you know, perfection in a Souls-like atmosphere. And then even Wo Long, obviously it's a game I wouldn't have discovered if I had this mentality, you know. I just want to play more Sekiro. But the combat in Wo Long and Sekiro and even like Bloodborne, compared to this, when I was playing Liza P, I just felt it wasn't great. You know, something about it, just because Sekiro is so smooth and prior games, you know, my expectation, I guess, hurts me in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. And the parry window's forgiving, I think. Not as much as Wo Long. Yeah. But it's still not as bad as Dark Souls.
The compared to Wo Long and Sekiro, I think the parry window is not as forgiving, but the bigger issue is that the parry is so much more high commitment in this. Like in both Sekiro and Wo Long, like the parry is the dodge button, so even if you like whiff that, you're probably moving out of the way. And Sekiro, you can like even just waggle your sword hitting the parry button over and over. In this one, it's tied to the block animation, so if you do it too early, you either have to commit to the block or hope that you can release and then slowly move back into the parry position enough. So it's just harder to time.
You would also mention frustrations about how everything takes stamina. Like the parrying, the blocking, and that was a little odd, especially when it comes to the parrying. I think that like it feels like dodging takes too much stamina, blocking takes too much stamina, even like perfect parrying takes stamina. So it feels like this game just, all that combines to feel like I don't have enough gas in the tank to mount an offense and a defense at the same time. At least when I was playing the demo, like those first few bosses, like that was my experience. I've invested a lot of points in Vigor, which is like the stamina stat, and it's gotten better. But that does tie into like another thing I don't really like about the game is compared to Souls games or, I don't know, Lords of the Fallen, Elden Ring, Sekiro, all those games make it easier for you to learn a boss without just like dying 10 seconds into the fight. Like you can do a lot of like blocking in a Dark Souls game or a lot of like block and parry stuff, trying to figure that out in Sekiro. And in this game, it feels like I'm just like whiff something and then I get flattened. And I'm just like dying so quickly in the game was like leading to a lot of the frustration. Well, Liza P just came out
back in September. Yeah. So for October, I wrote down Assassin's Creed Mirage, Lords of the Fallen, Spider-Man 2, and Mario Wonder as all games we might talk about. I think I'm the only one that played Mirage, though, so we can maybe skip that. I can just say, like, I don't like it as much as AC Unity, but I do think it's just like a solid, like, return to form Assassin's Creed game. I don't know if I'd replay it. I think I'd probably just replay Unity again, especially because there have been some exciting new mods that have come out on PC. But I think I definitely like came out of it with a more positive experience than I got from like Valhalla or AC Origins, which are games I had some fun with, but they also just kind of like they get really repetitive and they go on for like 100 hours when they
overstay
don't.
Their welcome.
Yeah, for sure. This one was a little more short and sweet. I do think the stealth is good. The cityscapes are pretty good, even if it's just not as good as Unity. But it is good. So I'm happy I played it.
What was the other one? You said Spider-Man 2?
Lords of the Fallen, Spider-Man 2, and Mario Wonder. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Zach, you're Lords of the Fallen, right?
Yeah. And
Right, so-
Dom's
Yeah,
been
I played
too.
some of it too. Yeah.
All right, so Lords of the Fallen, Zach and Dom, you
Another
played that.
Souls-like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like you look at Liza P and people were like, that is Pinocchio Bloodborne. Like specifically, like it's a Souls-like, but specifically it looks like it's aping Bloodborne. Although there's also like definitely influence from other games, including Sekiro in there. Lords of the Fallen is aping the Souls games specifically, like Dark Souls. And the vibe I get from it is like very much Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2. Like it feels like it's going to appeal more to Souls fans who like the earlier Souls games more than the later Souls games. Back when like the world design was more like branching and open than it is in like Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne. Back when the boss fight execution was less of what made the games challenging versus just like accidentally walking off a cliff or walking into a room and like 5 enemies jump you all at once. Like Lords of the Fallen is leaning much more into that, like the environment killing you or like just a bunch of enemies killing you. And honestly, I like that. So just on that level, I really vibed with it pretty hard.
You beat the game, right?
Yeah, I beat it. I loved it. I really loved it. It's definitely my favorite like Souls-like game that's not made by FromSoft. The mechanics that it has around the Umbral realm in particular, for anyone that doesn't know, there are like 2 versions of the world stacked on top of each other. So you know how like in like Twilight Princess, there's the Twilight realm that you can go into, and in Twilight Princess that happens at like specific points, and it becomes like kind of a puzzle to get back to where you want to go in the light world. In Lords of the Fallen, you are carrying a lantern, and at any time you can hold it up and peer into the Umbral version of the world, which has this entirely different like disgusting alien hellscape aesthetic. And there are like some differences that are unpredictable and some differences that are predictable. So like, for instance, in the Umbral realm, there's no water. So anytime you're obstructed by a body of water, you can go into the Umbral realm and just walk along the riverbed or whatever. There's also just some places where there's platforms that are there in Umbral that aren't there in the main world, or ladders that are there in Umbral that aren't there in the main world. There are also a ton more enemies in Umbral. And there's a lot of mechanics related to the Umbral realm that are really interesting. For example, if you hold up the lantern and you peer into Umbral, you can like walk on a platform that you can only see in the Umbral realm as long as you're holding the lantern. But also, like, the Umbral realm can interact with you. And if an enemy that exists in the Umbral realm touches you, you get pulled into the Umbral realm. Also, not related to the lantern, but if you die, you respawn in the Umbral realm. So it becomes this like second life. There's this timer when you're in the Umbral realm that goes for like maybe 5 minutes or something. And as the timer is progressing, more enemies and tougher enemies start appearing in the Umbral realm. If the whole timer runs out, then this like Mr. X Nemesis style super enemy spawns in and just wrecks you. And like at in-game you can beat him, but like up until then. So basically, whenever you go into the Umbral realm, you know clock's ticking. You're just like trying to like get somewhere, because there's only specific points where you can get back to the main world. You also earn more souls in the Umbral realm. There's some things you can only find in the Umbral realm. So there's this back and forth where you're trying to decide when you want to go into the Umbral realm to risk it and figure out where you can like. Then you have this time pressure that only exists in the Umbral realm, and this kind of challenge that only exists in the Umbral realm. So this back and forth is like super satisfying, and the way those 2 versions of the map intersect are really satisfying to navigate.
Yeah, I was just talking to Zach about this. It really shows how impressive, the game is, being able to simultaneously have both worlds going in the background.
Yeah.
Because when you hold up the lamp and enemies in that world and they're like gonna hit you, you could put the lamp back down and then they disappear.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? So like there's 2 worlds going on at all times.
It's interesting.
So it really shows the power of these, the consoles or whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny, one time I held up the lantern because I was near a body of water, and then it ended up being like a staircase going down in the Umbral world. And so I'm holding the lantern and I'm going down, and an enemy pops out of nowhere, and I panic and put my lantern down. And since I'm technically in a body of water in the real world, I drowned. It's a trip, like little things like that. And it's like, I guess that makes sense.
And that they're banking on you doing that too. Like they want that to happen.
Like natural discovery. I won't do it again.
Yeah.
Who made this game?
Oh God, it got passed around between multiple developers. Hexsoft. I don't know if that's the developer or the publisher. I can't remember. But it was a studio that was put together originally. Remember, there was a Lords of the Fallen game that came out almost 10 years ago. It got panned. I had never played it. That developer at some point was going to make a new Lords of the Fallen, but they didn't. They ended up making Atlas Fallen, or is that what it's called? I think Atlas Fallen, a game that came out this year. It's like an open world game with a lot of sand in it.
Developed by Hexworks and published by CI Games.
Okay, so CIA Games tasked a different developer with developing this game after that. And then that wasn't going well, so they actually created a development studio. They created Hexworks specifically to make this game. I don't know what the heritage of those developers is in terms of like what games they'd worked on previously, but this is the first game that the studio has made.
Man, how weird. This is like a no-hitter where it's like 3 or 4 pitchers that combine to like do the no-hitter. How weird.
Zach, this year alone, this or Wolong?
If I'm judging just the combat, Wolong, but like if I'm thinking about like the whole experience of like the world design and all that, this gave me some feelings that I haven't gotten from like the Souls series proper in close to a decade. Maybe Lords of the Fallen, honestly.
Okay. And that says a lot because Wolong was high on both of our lists for Game of the Year.
I still need to get back to Wolong. Like I still need to do the second DLC, and the third DLC, if it's not out already, is almost out.
That's pretty amazing, considering this is a random studio and cobbled together. Is Wolong, is that Koei Tecmo?
Yeah, it's Team Ninja.
And so to think that versus this game, and you're leaning towards this game, like that's pretty impressive.
Well, Team Ninja excelled at what you expect them to excel at. Like the boss fights, the feeling of the combat, like all that stuff is really good in Wolong. They just, level design is not their forte in the same way. It is impressive because, like, look, since the first Dark Souls came out, a lot of people have just wanted FromSoft to make a game that had a world structured like the first Dark Souls again, and they just haven't done it. They've just wanted to do other things. And this, like, the Lords of the Fallen world keeps, like, turning back in on itself, and you keep, like, oh, this is how you get, like, I know where I am, right? Having that kind of, like, feeling is happening a lot in in Lords of the Fallen. That doesn't really happen in a satisfying way in Lies of P. It happened less often in like Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3 or Sekiro. Lords of the Fallen is really going all in on that kind of like looping, kind of confusing level design. But like once you stop being confused, it's super satisfying, and I love how much they've like focused on that in this game.
Yep.
Well, Mario Wonder, Robert and I played. Robert, why don't you open us up with your thoughts on Mario Wonder?
So, I think that there's no denying it's the best 2D Mario game probably since World. I enjoy the new Super Mario Bros. Series. And I actually was just telling everyone that I had thrown New Super Mario Bros. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, good lord. I had thrown that into my Switch to try it out yesterday, just because it had been a minute since I'd played it. And I just finished beating Wonder. So I'm like looking at it, I'm like, there's no denying it's good. Like the new Super Mario Brothers games have been fun. And visually, like, U is an impressive looking game. But Wonder just does such a better job with its visual design and then the character models. I actually have seen a video where they're like taking the character models side by side, and it's like, here's new Super Mario Bros. Here's what they look like in Wonder. And they're just so much more expressive. They've gotten rid of the just dead on, from the side view that's in the new Super Mario games. And now they're kind of tilted towards you a little bit. And they just look so much better that way. And they're way more expressive. Like, the amount of animation in everything they do is through the roof. So, visually, this is the first game in a long time where something about it felt special and unique. And made the entire experience really enjoyable. The game decided to go in a different direction with player physics. So, everyone controls the same, no matter who you pick. From Daisy to Mario to Toad, they all run the same speed, jump the same.
How do you feel about that?
That didn't bother me at all. Because for one thing, I've never liked Luigi's fluttery jump and his lack of traction. I want him to feel the same as Mario. Because when you'd play these games back in the day, I can remember being a kid wanting to play as Luigi, and the only way you could pick him was in 2-player. So I'd fire the game up in 2-player, kill Mario, and then take over the second player controller to just play as Luigi. And
Mario.
Yeah, that's right. And he didn't move any different. So I enjoy them all moving the same. This game lets you have what you want, though, through badges. So the badge system is, do you want to be able to do that kind of, press down, hold it, and then do a super jump like in Mario Brothers 2? You can do that. It's just you have to equip it as a badge. Mm-hmm. So it allows you all these little optional gimmicky aspects of the control if you want them, and you don't have to use them. So I thought that was really cool. Even the that flail that was introduced in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, where in that game you would shake the remote and Mario does this little kind of twist midair, and
Yeah.
it keeps you from falling. That came back in this game as well, but I actually forgot it was there for a minute. So you can just play this game as straight Mario. You don't even have to use the flail if you don't want to. And it all works, which I thought was good. You're kind of, I feel like, satisfying everybody in that regard. The world design's very impressive. All the different worlds that you can go to look great. They also don't stick too closely to trope. Like, there's a desert world, but similar to, like, Galaxy 2, it's one of the rare times I'm in a desert world and didn't hate it. I always hate the desert worlds in Mario for some reason. But in this one, it's very creative the way it's portrayed. I'm trying to think. It's a little lame that the Yoshis are nerfed because they're the no damage character that you can pick. So they can't use power-ups. They do have their tongue attack as usual and the Yoshi flutter jump, but they also can't take damage. So like you can play as them, but it feels like you're cheating basically, or like it's for the kids.
Same with Nabbit, right?
And Nabbit is just straight, he doesn't even have the tongue ability. So those are like for the easy mode for people who need it. But I wish you could have a choice to turn it on and off. It's a little lame that you can't
Like with
do
a
that.
badge.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could do it with the badges. How come I can't do it with the Yoshis? And then also, it would have been kind of neat to see the Yoshis using power-ups. I mean, if you're going to allow them to actually be controllable characters...
you want to see Elephant Yoshi?
Yeah, give me Elephant Yoshi, give me Fireball Yoshi. The possibilities for action figures is endless. But yeah, it's very impressive. The only thing I'll say is that between... a lot of the games that we've been talking about, Baldur's Gate and Final Fantasy 16 were both mentioned in terms of soundtracks. Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Wonder. There's nothing in those soundtracks that's memorable to me. And even with Mario Wonder, I'm like, the only music that stood out in my head are the tracks where they were playing old music. I was like, oh, that's from Mario Sunshine. Oh, that's from Mario whatever. Those are the tracks. So I was like, cool, those stand out. And then the other tracks are just these sort of light... unimpactful pieces of music, and that's where I think Nintendo needs to step its game up a little bit, because even Tears of the Kingdom, I can't really think of any songs that I'm just like, I mean, think of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
I can. I'll stand up for Tears of the Kingdom soundtrack. I don't think it's at the same level as like Final Fantasy 16's, but there are pieces, as you're talking about this, that I'm thinking of, it's like, that's really good.
I was actually very disappointed by the castle music in Tears versus in Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, the indoor and outdoor castle music those are two of my favorite pieces of any Zelda game, which is saying a lot because it's one of the only positive things I have to say about Breath of the Wild. But I was expecting the same or similar music, and I just didn't get it from Tears.
I mean, even if you could make the argument that it was good music in Tears or good music in Mario Wonder, like the classic games had music you don't forget. Like there's tunes in Mario 64 that you whistle and Mario World, Mario 3, and then Ocarina and Majora. Like those are super iconic with the soundtracks. Wind Waker. But these last couple console generations, I feel like in some ways the music is lacking a little bit. So like the game design has remained super strong and the visuals, but the music is always just like, it's good, but it's not like iconic anymore.
It's generic.
It'd be hard to outdo Square Enix for music no matter what year. Like that's always been a strength that they've had as a publisher, no matter how badly they've been effing up their various series.
We should listen to Forspoken's just for the hell of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just Final Fantasy, right? Like the Chrono series, Nier series, they just usually knock it out of the park when it comes to soundtracks.
Near Square?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even think that.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I do like the badge system, but I noticed this game is slightly light on power-ups. So there's the drill, there's the elephant, there's obviously the fire flower.
The bubble.
And the bubble. Those are your main ones. But like, for example, you have an underwater kick that you can do. It's like, that's cool, but maybe instead of badges, what if it was more dressing up Mario? So it's like you put on the frog suit, and that allows you to be underwater and use the kick, and then you don't have to worry as much about like losing the frog suit. That was the one part of Mario 3 that would drive me nuts, is that you would barely ever have the chance to use the frog suit. You would get it, you get hit, and it's gone. And it's just like, wow, and I'm not going to see another one for like another 3 stages.
No, I love this about Mario 3. You're like, yes, I got the Tanuki suit, and then 10 seconds later, you're just kicking yourself.
God, it's so frustrating. The hammer suit. Like, it would be fun, because like Mario Odyssey, I really loved all the costumes. And it's like, you know what? Bring a little bit of that to Mario in 2D.
Yeah.
And you can replace the badges with the suits, and like there's some power-ups that can disappear, and then there's some things that are just suits and give you ability. I don't know. It'd be interesting to mess with, but it's a very good game. It's the performance by Afghani as the new voices of Mario and Luigi. I was very impressed. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure everyone listening is like, I know someone in my life that can sound exactly like Mario. That's, whatever. But all I know is Afghani did a very good job. He sounds like them, but also adds his own touch to them, which I wasn't expecting, honestly. Like, I was like, okay, whoever takes over is just going to be mimicking Charles Martinet. But he was mimicking, but also adding in his own little bit of flair to it. And I was like, this is actually really good. I almost like, I'm going to blasphemize here. I actually kind of like some of what he was doing even more than what I had heard with Martinet. So that was great. But yeah, it's hard to explain. I loved it. It's really good. But there's something missing, and I don't know what it is. And it's been this way for a long time with the 2D games. I don't know what's missing that I want that isn't there. Even the secrets, like there's secret paths in Wonder, obviously, and there's a whole secret world you can go to, and it's all fun and it's all good. But when you go back to finding the Star Road stages in Mario World, that shit felt like it was legitimately like a secret. Like, whoa, there's this whole place I can go to. Now I'm expecting it, and when I go through stages, it is very rare that there's a secret that is truly hidden from me. Like, I'm just like, okay, it's there.
It's
yeah. Like, there's that one little teeny bit of something in the corner. I can see it there. I obviously have to go there, and there's a secret.
I mean, that's it, right? It's kind of like they've got a templatized sense of what a secret is supposed to be now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talking about like finding Star Road, or like, I know I always talk about Mario 3 when we talk about Mario, but like figuring out like that you can break a block at the border of the screen in World 2, and then there's a whole extra screen past that, right? Mm-hmm. Or that you, on the boat on World 3, you can sail off the eastern edge, and there's more world there.
Yep.
Like that kind of thing where there's no tell at all, and you're just you trusting the player to be like, I wonder what happens if I break this boundary, right? Like that's not there in these games anymore.
Yes, it needs to find a way to reinvigorate that part of it, because it's slightly formulaic now, where it's just like, of course there's that secret world you go to, and it's like, well, okay, and it's always kind of the same way that you get there. Even the map, like, I thought it was cool that they incorporated the overhead 3D map, because it starts off, slight spoilers if you haven't played the game yet, but it starts off with you're on a rigid path. It's like stage 1, stage 2, and you're just going on the trail, but then you get past the first, 3 stages, I believe, and all of a sudden Mario can walk overhead. He's just... And it's just like in 3D World, and it's just like in the last 2 Kirby games, Star Allies and Forgotten Kingdom, where the overhead map, you can actually, move on it. Mm-hmm. And, it works, it's cool, but, again, it still felt sort of formulaic in terms of secrets, because, there's hidden points in the map in Wonder. And I'm just like, all I have to do is just run into corners, run into places on the map you can't see. You'll eventually see press A, and then boom, there goes the secret. And so I don't know how you make that better again, but it would be nice to see happen.
Yeah, I've had fun with it so far. I'm on World 3, and I've enjoyed most of the power-ups. I don't really love the elephant, though it is pretty useful at times. And I really don't like the bubble that much. It is kind of cool, though, just spraying out bubbles and then all of your enemies are turning into coins, but they're just okay. I don't know how much I really love the new power-ups, but I've been having a lot of fun with the game. Agree with Robert on a lot of things. I think the new character animations are incredibly charming. They really bring the characters to life in a way that I haven't felt like they've been alive in a while. I think it's great. Do agree with Robert that there just seems to be something missing, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. I can't explain it, but it's not impacting my overall enjoyment of the game. It's just, you could just tell there's just something not still quite right. But I think it's super fun. Actually, the first time I played it, Zach and I went to Japan for our honeymoon in October, and we actually got to play 10 minutes of it in store at Nintendo Tokyo. And so that was pretty cool, playing on this humongous screen. So we did a little bit of the 2-player, and that was fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying the game, and still looking forward to beating it, actually. I think that the zaniness is pretty interesting, which I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, because part of why I didn't really click with Odyssey was that I thought that the worlds were just a little too bizarre and nothing really meshed and nothing connected. But Mario Wonder feels like a fever dream at times, like just some crazy stuff happening on screen that you've never seen in a Mario game before, and it does keep things interesting. Like, I will give it that much, and I have to give credit where it's due. Like, a lot of the things that you're seeing happening on screen are just bizarre, and they're weird, and, like, things happen where it's like, you're walking on portions of walls where, like, normally, and you're walking on a wall when you shouldn't be able to, and then, like, walking in places where you're not supposed to be, swimming in places where you're not supposed to be. Like, the Wonder Seeds just make the world an entirely different experience.
Yeah, the Wonder Flowers are great because, like, they're gimmicky, sure, but they're restrained with the use of them. It's not constant. And when it does transform the world, it's legitimately interesting just to see the crazy things that take place.
Mm-hmm. And the way that the enemies too have a lot more personality. Like a Koopa Troopa, he's just pacing back and forth like a Koopa Troopa does. But then he sees Mario, and like the closer Mario gets, all of a sudden his eyes will narrow, and he's like, giving him a dirty look. Or Goombas will, like, if you jump over them, they'll look overhead like, oh shit, yeah. They're like their eyes are all big and their mouths are wide, and it's just funny seeing them react. But
they did a good job spicing up the Boom Boom style boss encounters. So, usually Boom Boom, it's like he'll charge at you, you hit him on the head, and maybe he starts rolling in a shell. Mm-hmm. That is kind of continued here with Bowser Jr., but the Wonder Flowers, again, are incorporated here. Mm-hmm. And so it results in these really cool, chaotic versions of those battles where he's, like, floating in the air at certain times, and there's just different ways that they tackle it. Mm-hmm. So that, I thought, was cool. However, this game, just like 3D World in particular, stands out in my mind for this. A lack of boss fights, which I found disappointing. I wish there were more. The final battle with Bowser was really, really fun. It was really creative.
Hey, wait, I'm
not going to say what it is, but I'm just like, why didn't we get more of this in the game? Like, the stages are brilliant, but then the boss battles are few and far between. And then, like, even again, I'm complimenting the Bowser Jr. stuff. They are good and they are creative, but, like, that's it. There's one other variation. It's like a conveyor belt boss stage that you do a couple times. And I'm just like, if only they would have went a little crazier with that. That would have been good.
I don't think I've ever been that keen on the boss fights in Mario games, but I understand they can be better or worse.
Well, at times they get them right. They get them really right. Like, the few boss battle types that you get in 3D World, I think are really well done. And I'm just like, if only we could have got a few more of those. Kind of the same thing here.
Well, moving on from Wonder, what was the next game that came out?
The only other thing we might have to talk about is the Mario RPG remake.
Okay. That's, again, me and Robert. I'll start with this one. I jumped into it first, and I think Robert and I both have some baggage as it relates to this game. We played it a lot growing up. We both have strong feelings about it, positive feelings about it. So it has been hard, speaking for myself at least, to separate my feelings about the original from this remake. But even separating what I can, I do think that it is a solid remake. Visually, it's very pretty. It's really just the same environments and the same isometric perspective, but just spiced up. And it looks very, very nice. And then there are new cutscenes that they've added that didn't exist before. Like, for example, you get the star, you fight the first boss, and instead of just watching the star and like fall into Mario's hands in the throne room in Mushroom Kingdom, it's like a whole cutscene of him getting the star that gets spliced in. It's just neat things like that. When certain characters are introduced, like Croco, there's a cutscene for him, Mallow, and different things they've added, like a scrapbook that you can read, where you can go back and like look at memories, like significant points in the game. That's cool. There have obviously been some changes to combat. There's like a gauge that you can fill, and it gets filled through your actions. Once it reaches 100%, you press the minus button, Toad appears. And this is prior to having like a three-man party. Toad appears, he gives you a random item, and then that item will give you some sort of like status effects in battle. So that's cool. Spices things up. Different things you can do in the overworld now. Like now you can just press Y or whatever, and you can use healing items or healing specials. Like you can just have Mallow do HP rain while you're in the field. So different ways where they've tried to like either create like quality of life improvements, as they call them, or just change things up a bit. Some of them work for me. Some of them, they didn't have to be there. The music is a big thing. The music, I much prefer the original soundtrack. The original soundtrack is one of my all-time favorite soundtracks in a game. The new music is not bad. It's just, it lacks the charm. They are like technically speaking well done, but there are times where I think they also miss the mark. Like the Kuro Sewers theme, it's creepy, but it's also kind of quiet because the sewers are quiet and creepy. In the remake, they took that song and they made it bigger and like more grandiose, and there's even some kind of like chanting in the background, or like vocalization rather, I should say.
There's like OC remix versions of the songs.
Yeah, and it's just like it missed the mark. It missed the point of that environment. It's too big. It's too grand for this quiet, creepy, claustrophobic place that you're in. So just some of those complaints I had. So, there are other little changes, like the toad that you talk to in the Mushroom Kingdom Inn. He's playing that kind of Game Boy-like game. And when you talk to him too much in the original, his whole body like vibrates and shakes and he gets super pissed. And he tells you like, oh, now look, I messed up because of you. And it's in all caps, multiple exclamation points. But in this one, he just slowly shakes his head, but he has the same text. And so it just doesn't really match like how angry he gets at you when he speaks, but that's not what's shown. And so it's just some kind of odd changes that they made. And it's not really clear why they made those changes. But combat-wise, it's fun. I have like no problems with the combat. You can also turn the modern music off and you can just listen to the original music if that's what you prefer. Different things, like you can have Mario auto run. So if you don't want to have to walk everywhere, you just want to sprint. You can just have him sprinting everywhere, which is what I've chosen to do. But yeah, I mean, so far it's a solid remake. If you love the original as much as I do, Robert does, try and let go of that and just kind of enjoy the experience for what it is, or you'll never be happy with it. Truly, because it's just like it does pale in comparison to the original. The original is such a high bar. But it's a beautiful game. It's fun. I'm enjoying it.
I think I'm skewing a little more negative than Angie is. So the auto run she just mentioned. The auto run I think has been implemented in part because the Y button now serves this different function on the controller that it didn't on the original game. But it's strange button mapping to me. Because I'm like, okay, I can turn on the auto run and not have to worry about pressing Y to make him run like he did in the original. But the problem is they know that there's people playing this who played the original, which is why there are a couple of control options that are there to accommodate you. So for example, you go into battle, commands are mapped to the face buttons on the controller. In the original, if you pressed X to initiate something, you would press X again to keep going through that menu. In this one, it's defaulted to you can press A to confirm. Or, for the long-time player, you can switch it to you press X, you press Y, you press A. So they know you're there thinking of those old styles of doing it. So with the run, it's like, okay, how come I can't map it so that instead of pressing L or R to run, while moving them around, make it Y? It's like it takes zero processing power and thought to just do that. And instead, it's not an option. So it's like, so you want me to have the familiar feel and then you don't want me to have it? I just don't get it. It's not like a game-breaking thing. It's just a little annoying. So whatever, I just have him on auto run and I'm not noticing it that much. In terms of the combat, the new additions are good. Or I should say that they are good, especially for somebody who wants the experience to go a little faster. I think by default, Mario and Mallow are either leveling up or are a little more powerful, leveling up faster or more powerful than they are in the original game. I don't know why that's another thing that you couldn't have an option to scale back a little bit. So there's splash damage now. Mm-hmm. You do an attack, you get the timing perfect, and it will spray onto surrounding enemies. That's cool, and it does make battles go a little more quickly. But maybe I don't want that. It's like maybe I don't want the splash damage because I want it to be more challenging. Why can't I just turn it off? That's something I don't totally get either. Same with the now. This, to its credit, the Toad thing, the meter, the gauge that's filling, you can totally ignore it. You don't have to use it. You can just sit there at 100% and you never touch it. So whatever. Little changes like that have been a mixed bag for me. I do think visually it's really nice, but I noticed some slight stuttering in the early parts of the game. Like when you're going to Bowser's Castle and it's the cinematic for it. I could see there's a little bit of a hitch in some of what I'm looking at. And it made me think of the Link's Awakening remake from a couple years ago that's also on Switch. And I'm just like, this looks really beautiful, but like, why did you, like, I feel like everything should have got down as perfect as you could get it in terms of smoothness with like animation and everything. Especially because it's like, this ain't Final Fantasy 16. Like, this ain't the most graphically challenging thing I've ever seen done. And there's technically games on the Switch I think are a little more impressive looking. The visuals shouldn't have any problems. And there's a little teeny bit of that there, so it bugs me. And then the music. Oh my god. So, to Angie's point, they're not terrible. None of the rearrangements of any of the songs are bad. I do think tonally maybe some of them don't fit. I'm not quite at Kuro Sewers yet, so I haven't heard that. But like the enemy encounter music, I think is just so insanely inferior to the original SNES version. I had read a review where someone was saying that like if you listen to the rearrangements, you just realize how much better it is than like the originals. Was saying it was like, you know, like listening through rose-colored lenses, you know, that saying. But I'm sitting and I'm like, you all are the same people in the games media that praise Jake Kaufman and you praise T. Lopes, like the kings of Toby Fox, the masters of the chiptune music. It's like, so in one breath you're acting like, oh yeah, it's that archaic old stuff, it's not as good. And then in the next you're like, have you heard Undertale's soundtrack? It's like, oh my god, which is it? I think the original soundtrack is vastly superior. And it's awesome that you can switch back and forth between the two. I wish you could have done the same thing for the visuals. That's something that a lot of these, like you're seeing more often with some of these games. Like the Halo collection did it. The Lara Croft remakes that are coming out are going to let you switch back and forth with the graphics. It would have been cool to have the option to switch back and forth in this one. Because I'm very partial to those original pre-rendered.
Wait, but
graphics.
Lara Croft remakes? You mean Guardian of Light?
No, the remakes that are coming out on Switch of the first 3 games.
Oh, the Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you'll be able to switch on the fly. I wish you could have done that here, but overall, it is impressive so far. The combat is every bit as fun as it ever was, and the story is cute. You know, it's a simple story, but the dialogue's very charming. The way the story is presenting is very fun. So I'm looking forward to making my way through this and hopefully beating it before the paper. What's the Thousand Year Door remake comes out?
Yeah, agree. I think it's a solid remake. I think I'm more positive on it than Robert, but it is definitely not perfect. And like I said, it can never hold a candle to the original. It just can't. The bar that game set is just so high, but it's in its own right. Just taking it for what it is, I have been enjoying it a lot, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
I'm looking forward to. I'm going to do this playthrough, and I'm going to do Gino and Malo as my party members, which I've never done before. I always have just had Malo up until I could get rid of him, and then had Gino until I could get rid of him. Like, you know what? For something different this time, I will play it with those two and not do Bowser and Peach.
I never dumped Gino when I was playing this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's really powerful.
Yeah, he is.
He's like the Black Mage.
Yeah, but Robert and I both always liked having the Mario Bowser Peach combo.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dump Mallow though. I think Mario, Gino, Peach is what I leaned on most.
I'm going to give him a shot. I got to check out the new features too. Like there's a compendium that kind of gives you all the inner thoughts and talks about the enemies that you encounter. Mm-hmm. I had heard from one of the reviewers that I saw online, they were saying that when you get deep into the game and you start trying to access that menu for that the game just starts lurching. Like, the fuller it gets, the harder the game has at the time of, like, pulling it up. I'm like, oh, I hope that's not true.
I will say, I did think that the addition of auto-saving was a little odd because the game makes a point of pointing out to you that you can still save using the save boxes.
Yeah, it's a totally unnecessary change.
Yeah, because I think that the save boxes are actually stretched out like I think it's fine in the original game.
They're strategically placed.
Yeah, I don't think that you go too long without having an opportunity to save. So the autosave feature just felt completely unnecessary, and I don't think that they should have added it.
Can you turn it off?
I don't know. I don't think you can turn it off.
I don't think so.
So you get this piece of dialogue that they added in, where Toad in the original game shows you the save boxes, but then they've added in him telling you, but also it auto saves, so like you can use these if you want or whatever. So it was just kind of weird, but yeah. I think that covers everything since the last time we got together. And hopefully we do not take another 7 months to find a moment to get together. We have one more month of the year. Still, I think some stuff slated to release.
At least slated to get to.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much else actually slated to come out.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the end for this year in terms of new stuff. Pretty much all been done.
but we'll.
Yeah.
Matter of
Holiday
all of
comes
us
out every
catching
year,
up now.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Just catching up.
Before we go, I'd just like to also point out, you know another name change in Mario RPG? For some reason, they changed this house's name. It says Mario House in this one, and it's Pipe House. And I remember that from the original.
Oh.
And I'm just like, who cares? Like, why was that worthy of a change?
I
Like, it
noticed-
was quirky that it was called Pipe House, and I'm just like, why did that need to be
I
changed?
thought that was odd because I also saw that it said Mario House, and I was like, thinking to myself, did it always say Mario House, or did it say something different? And I didn't think to look into it, but yeah.
Frog Sage.
Yeah.
They nerfed too. You get more of the frog coins I've noticed so far, and that was interesting because like they were not abundant. Like that was kind of the point, is that you could hardly get them, and the items you could get using the coins, it made them even harder to get. So now I'm thinking you're probably going to be able to get everything now at this point, and that's a little kind of
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this somewhat long-winded episode, but it's what happens when you go too long without recording. So
Too many things to talk about.
yeah. But we will get together again soon. But thanks for joining us today.